All right, good morning. Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. This is the regular board meeting for the Board of Supervisors of Lake County. We will begin our meeting with a moment of silence, and I'm going to pass it on to Vice Chair Crandall.
I have a moment of silence for Emmeline Honeyjoy Mitchell. Miss M was her nickname. She was born in Lakeport on April 17th, 1956, and passed away on October 13th, 2024 at Sutter Regional Center in Santa Rosa. She was, Miss M was an absolute beautiful Pomo woman who was strong, funny, and amazing to be around. She is survived by her children, Erica Rouse, Robert Rouse, grandsons Sonny and Johnny Ray, siblings LaVonna Tapia, Eugene Mitchell, Jackie Mitchell, and many nieces. Her funeral and her services were actually yesterday, but I just wanted to make sure I got this moment of silence in, and she was from Robinson Ranchery as well. So,
Thank you for that. If we could all rise. Supervisor Green, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 4, consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda. Are there any extra items?
No, there are not, Chair.
And any from board members? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Any items to be pulled by board members? Seeing none, let's open it up. Anyone in the public wish to pull an item from the consent agenda? If you are on Zoom, please raise your hand. If you are in the board chamber, please come on up to the microphone. I see no movement in either one, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Move to approve the consent agenda as posted, items 5.1 through 5.11.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will move on to our public input. I do have one here, but it's for a specific item. This is for public input on anything not on our posted agenda for today. If you wish to provide public input, please come on up to the microphone. You will have 3 minutes. Again, raise your hand in Zoom or come on up to the microphone in the chamber. Seeing none, let's go ahead and close public input and move on to item 6.2, our 9:03 a.m. item, Pet of the Week, and we have Mr. Joel.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Today we have Oscar, a 3-year-old Mastiff. He's a true definition of a gentle giant. He does great with all people, kids, and other dogs. He has not been cat tested, but we feel that he would be great in any household. He is happy to snuggle up on the couch with a warm blanket or go on an outdoor adventure. He is the whopping 110 pounds of pure love. You would also like to mention the little female puppy from Glenhaven Fire has found a loving home, and we adopted at our pumpkin patch event on Saturday. And on Saturday, we'll be at Rainbow Ag providing free microchips for cats, dogs between the hours of 10 and 3. If they check out our Facebook page or Rainbow Ag's Facebook page, you can get more details.
Thank you very much, and great news. Love what you did over at the pumpkin patch this weekend. Appreciate that.
I just wanted to also note that the dog Glenda apparently went with one of the CAL FIRE officers, Mr. Little, Jack Little, So he said it when he came down from the hill and she was in his driver's seat all curled up. He goes, "I think I'll just take her. I got a big yard." So he ended up doing so.
A bond was made.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, guys.
much. We'll move on to our 6.3 item, 9:05 a.m., presentation of proclamation recognizing October 2024 as Filipino Heritage Month in Lake County, and Vice Chair Crandall. will come up and do that.
Right. I think you can come up here with us. And so, let's see. Who's going to read? All right. So we brought forward this proclamation, and it was an idea because I've seen other counties conduct this proclamation for Filipino American History Month, and it is within September and October. Considering, we have 2 directors of Filipino heritage, not to mention in this county during the 30s through the 50s, folks came here from the Philippines to work in our agricultural industry, and there are many folks that live in the community still that obtain Filipino heritage and also work in the community and whatnot. So I just felt it was a good thing that we do this, and so we're going to read it in English, and then Lloyd is going to read it in Tagalog. So we'll start. I'll read the first paragraph. We'll go like we did before. All right, so this proclamation is recognized in October 2024 as Filipino American History Month in Lake County. Whereas the celebration of Filipino American History Month in October commemorates the first recorded presence of Filipinos in the continental United States, which occurred on April 18, 1587, when the Luzones Indios came ashore from the Spanish galleon Nuestra Señora de Esperanza and landed what is now Morro Bay, California. And
whereas ang pagdiriwang ng Filipino-American History Month noong Oktubre ay ginugunita ang unang naitalang presensya ng mga Pilipino sa kontinental ng Estados Unidos na naganap noong Oktubre 18, 1587 nung dumating ang Luzones Indios mula sa Spanish galleon na Nuestra Señora de Esperanza at dumaong sa Morro Bay, California.
whereas in 2009, U.S. Congress recognized October as Filipino American History Month in the United States. Various states, counties, and cities in the U.S. have established proclamations and resolutions declaring observance of Filipino American History Month. And
whereas noong 2009, kinilala ng U.S. Congress ang Oktubre bilang Filipino American History Month sa Estados Unidos. Ang iba't ibang lugar sa lungsod sa US ay nagtatag ng mga proklamasyon at resolusyon na nagdedeklara ng pagdiriwang ng Filipino American History Month.
Whereas the late Dr. Fred Cordova, along with his wife, Filipino American National Historical Society, FANHS founder Dr. Dorothy Laigo Cordova first introduced October as Filipino American History Month in 1992 with the resolution from the FANHS National Board of Trustees marking 2024 as the 32nd anniversary of Filipino American History Month celebration nationally. And
whereas si Dr. Fred Cordova kasama ang kanyang asawa si Dr. Dorothy Laigo Cordova ng Filipino American National Historical Society, FANHS, na si Dr. Dorothy Laigo Cordova ay unang ipinakilala ang Oktubre bilang Filipino American History Month noong 1992 na may resolusyon mula sa FANHS National Board of Trustees na nagmarka ng 2024 bilang ika-32 anibersaryo ng pagdiriwang ng Filipino-American History Month sa buong bansa.
whereas as early as the 1930s, Filipino immigrants significantly contributed to the history of Lake County, California, and the United States, most notably as laborers recruited to support the agricultural industry, also as medical professionals to deliver health care, also as servicemen and servicewomen to enlist in the armed services, and as pioneers who settled in the United States and also Lake County to build communities. And
whereas noong dekada ng 1930, malaki ang naiambag ng mga Pilipinong imigrante sa kasaysayan ng Lake County, California at Estados Unidos, lalo na bilang mga manggagawang para suportahan ang industriya ng agrikultura, bilang mga medikal na profesional para sa kalusugan, bilang mga nagtatrabaho sa militar at sa mga tumira sa Estados Unidos at Lake County para sa taong bayan.
whereas Filipino Americans have made Lake County their place to live, work, and play continuing to present day and into the future, greatly contributing to the local and broader culture and economy, which enriches Greater Lake County, and Lake County takes great pride in the diverse workforce, which includes talented Filipino Americans in the workforce to include key leadership positions and is exemplified by outstanding public servants such as Ray Buenaventura, who serves as the Public Defender Director, and Lloyd Guintivano, who holds the position of County Counsel. And
Whereas ginawa ng mga Pilipinong Amerikano ang Lake County bilang kanilang lugar upang manirahan at magtrabaho na nagpapatuloy at lubos na nag-aambag sa kultura at ekonomiya para sa pamayanan ng Lake County, at ipinagmamalaki ng Lake County ang nagtatrabaho na kinabibilangan ng mga mahuhusay na nagtatrabahong Pilipinong Amerikano sa pamumunong posisyon gaya ni Ray Buenaventura na nagsisilbing Public Defender at si Lloyd Guintivano na nagsisilbing County Counsel.
whereas the County of Lake will commemorate Filipino American History Month each October, a month-long observance to honor and share the rich tapestry of Filipino American art, history, culture, and identity. And I'll go into the next one as well, so we could do both. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Lake County Board of Supervisors declares the month of October 2024 as Filipino American History Month in Lake County and encourages the community to engage and celebrate in Filipino American festivities throughout the month, passed and adopted this 22nd day of October. Signed, Chair of the Board of Supervisors, Bruno Sabatier.
Whereas gugunitain ng County of Lake ang Filipino-American History Month tuwing Oktubre, isang buwan ng pagdiriwang upang parangalan at ibahagi ang mayamang sining, kasaysayan, kultura at pagkakailanlan ng Filipino-American. Ngayon, kaya ipinahayag na idineklara ng Lake County Board of Supervisors ang buwan ng Oktubre 2024 bilang Filipino-American History Month sa Lake County at hinihikayat ng taong bayan na makisali sa pagdiriwang itong buwan.
And that's it. And thank you for being willing to do this. I think it's just very important that we do honor, all different diverse, folks from everywhere. When people talk about how the country, was formed, they talk about how everyone is welcome to come to the country, and there's no specific language that's designated for the United States. I think people forget that sometimes. And so when I go into different areas and I see people speaking their native language, it's important. I think it's, awesome. So that's why I felt it was important for you to read this in the language of Tagalog. And so would either of you like to say anything?
Yes. Thank you, Supervisor Crandall. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So as a former elected official in my past life, I have been often the issuer of proclamations like this, but never someone to receive it. And I can tell you it's quite humbling to receive it. I'm actually, I feel a little pressure. I'm a bit nervous because me and Lloyd are representing the Filipino Americans in Lake County today. When I first came here, you welcomed me, and I felt really at home here in Lake County, but I've never felt more welcome than today. For you to do something like this, to honor Filipino American History Month in a population where we don't have many Filipinos, but we do have some, and for you, Supervisor Crandall, especially you, to take the initiative, and for all the board members to support it. It's really gratifying, it's very appreciated, and it's very humbling. This is something that I think the Filipino community here in Lake County is going to be very proud of. I'm wearing what they call my barong Tagalog. This is the traditional Filipino formal attire that's worn on special occasions. This is a special occasion for us, for the community. I only have about 9 days left in October to wear it, and I might just wear it every day. I'm that proud of being part of this community. It's my hope that someday you'll all get to visit the Philippines. The Philippines is a beautiful country. It's had its struggles. We've been colonized, we have had dictators, we've suffered from natural disasters, but in the end, we are a resilient people. And it's the people that I really would like you to meet. I'd like you to see their warmth, their hospitality, how they always have a smile on their face despite the conditions they go through. Lake County, I mean, I'm seeing just all signs of culture and of the Filipinos here, from the lady at the farmer's market who sells the lumpia to your diversity in adding Lloyd and I to this administration, and to this new restaurant that's just down the street, a Taste of Paradise, who's now going to be serving Filipino cuisine. It's just a great community, and I'm just so proud to be here. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you again for the recognition, everybody. It really is meaningful to our community. Thank you. So.
You're good? All right.
Thank you for doing this again, Vice Chair Crandall. For those of you that don't know, this is the third proclamation in the last few weeks that's been done in multiple languages, and it's really important to shine a light on the diversity that makes Lake County so strong and beautiful.
I want to thank Supervisor Crandall. These are the most words I've heard sequentially come out of Lloyd's mouth ever. So if there's one proclamation I have enjoyed immensely, it was that one. And to hear it in Tagalog is exciting. Yes, like most of us, our familiarity with Filipino culture is limited. I'm definitely dialed in on the lumpia down at Library Park, so if you've got nothing else going, blow that booth up and make her happy for today. Not all lumpia is created equal. There are other places that try it, but if you want it done right, go to the natives. And to the new place, I don't know, maybe you can explain this another day, maybe it'll be another board item, but Spam. I don't really know how to get my head around the ongoing use and abuse of Spam, but thank you for that, and you look very nice. You should show the audience how you look.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for bringing this, Supervisor Crandall, and Ray and Lloyd, for, especially you, Lloyd, reading that in your native tongue, as we said. So, Filipino culture is ingrained in Middletown Rancheria's history also. We have tribal members who are married into Filipino families. We also have that blood and that culture running through our tribe, some of our tribal members. So today is an honor, obviously, to have this happening today, but it's integrated everywhere in the culture, especially through the tribal nations. We can't be the only ones in Middletown that have that tie with our Sonoma County tribal people who have, participated in all the cultural events over in Sonoma County. Matter of fact, we even had one of our tribal members accept the proclamation in Sonoma County that they did last year. So thank you very much for doing this today.
And I don't have much more to say than what's already been said by my colleagues. Vice Chair Crandall, thank you very much for bringing these proclamations, this one as well. Appreciate the two of you, Lloyd and Ray, for representing a larger community within Lake County and also within our staff as well. There are other Filipino Americans within our staff. It's always a good thing to acknowledge and say, we see you, we appreciate you, thank you for contributing to our community. So I think this is always good. Thank you very much. Any public comment on this item?
And so I just wanted to also say that in the tribe, in my district, Upper Lake and in Robinson, I think in my tribe, there's at least a third of our members who are married into the Filipino culture as well, and then in Upper Lake. So, and that's because of the 30s, of course. And so a lot of the families, they blended during that time frame. And I found it in the Malden books, which isn't usually, the best to use, but at the same time, it referenced, from that time frame as well. So, and then my elders also talked about it. So I knew that there was, a lot of connection. So that's another reason why I felt that, because also, like your tribal member in Sonoma, we had one as well accepting it. And I was like, wait, why don't we do that? So, so yeah, that was another thing that sparked this. So.
We have a public comment from Betsy Kahn.
Good morning, and thank you for letting me speak. I just want to acknowledge, I know there are hundreds of amazing people in this county of Filipino descent, but I want to personally acknowledge in Robinson Tribe, the Quitiquit family. The members of that family are profoundly artistic, creative, um, um, uh, just a fantastic group of people. And then also one of our most prominent and really fantastic community members is Magdalena Valderrama from the Ziegler Springs Community Redevelopment Association up on Cobb. So thank you very much. This is a beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I see no further hands up and no one getting up in the board chambers. And so we'll go ahead and close this item.
Oh, yeah, this is it. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Moving on to item 6.4, or 9:15 a.m. item, public hearing continued from August 13th, 2024. Consideration of appeal AB 24-02 of Planning Commission's approval of major use permit UP 20-96 Highland Farms. Appellants Tom Lasik, Margot Kambara, and Associates. Hopefully I said that correctly this time. I tried to learn from the last meeting. Location 7408, 7522, 7527, 7634, and 7746 Highland Springs Road, and 7257 and 7357 Amber Ridge Road in Lakeport. APNs 007, 006, 27, 34, 35, 40, 41, and 007 057-01 and 02. At this moment in time, I think before we start, we wanted to take an oath, get people sworn in, and then open it up and then open up the item. And so if anybody wants to speak on this item, then I'm going to ask you to please stand up and raise your right hand and follow instructions from Johanna. If you are online, please raise your hand so we can unmute you. If we can unmute all of those, there's just one hand at the moment.
Hold on.
Oh, here they come.
Jeez Louise. Okay, hold on. I think I got them all. All right. With your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thanks.
I do.
All right, thank you very much. So I want to open it up first with comments from Director Turner, and then see how we move forward with today's public hearing. And so you have the floor.
Thank you. Mireya Turner, Director, Community Development Department. The Lake County Code requires materials to be submitted for an appeal no less than 96 hours prior to the hearing. The purpose of that is to avoid a large amount of documentation arriving before the board or the Planning Commission without sufficient time for review. On Friday, October 11th, staff received about 280 pages of input from the permittee regarding the project. This is a little different. Although the submission did meet the 96-hour time limit, the materials that were submitted were not just materials talking about the appeal itself, but rather modifications to the already approved project. Given last week with a holiday and some lack of availability by the project planner, we've not had sufficient time to review these documents. In fact, with 281 pages, it would take us a little longer than just a day or two because we need to consult with our stakeholder agencies. We need to review the changes in the project to see how that impacts our environmental analysis with the possibility of recirculating the analysis. Additionally, we do need time to confer with County Council regarding what to do with a project that is modified after it has been approved but is now getting appealed. So this is not a common set of circumstances for our department. Due to those reasons, staff does require a continuance. In order to give us a proper amount of time for the CEQA, and if we are to recirculate the CEQA and get additional or revised comments from our stakeholder agencies, we request a continuance to January 7th or January 14th. Leave that up to Johanna. Should the board decide that they would just like us to come back with a report on our proper next steps as vetted through County Council, we would be happy to do that at an earlier date, but we do request that mid-December.
Okay. I want to kind of check in with the board as to their thoughts on continuance, because that would change the process of today's meeting. What are your guys' thoughts? Do the continuance or proceed with today's public hearing with the information we have? Supervisor Green?
Yeah, because there's two flavors of this request. One would be assuming, and I don't know this because we haven't heard from the applicant yet, assuming the changes submitted are all designed to shrink or modify the project in part to address concerns raised by appellants. It's not a slam dunk that such a review would result in a recommendation to go to a recirculation. Is that correct? There could be two possible paths.
I can't answer that definitively because we have not had the time to actually review the materials.
Okay.
But that is an option. Staff also, just to finish, staff is, we are able to present on the appeal with the project as was approved. We're not prepared to do a presentation on the project as it is being proposed to be amended.
Okay. Then I guess my question would be, and we'll accept public comment on that, is, not choose your poison is not the right one, but when we're talking about dates for a possible continuance, what people think the more likely scenario might be after that review, and we'll try to schedule that continued date at an appropriate time based on those comments, but we haven't heard those comments yet, so thank you.
Any other comments? Supervisor Pyska?
I mean, I haven't had time to review everything either, so I think we need to continue the item and hear back from staff on what the recommendations to move forward either way are.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with getting a report back in the mid-December after you guys have had time to review. I think that was the second part of the request there. That's where I'm leaning towards. And have us that opportunity to get some more information for yourselves and also for us. So those are my thoughts.
I'm open either way, and I know that, are we going to allow public to? Yeah, so seeing what they have to say as well.
December 17th is the last one.
It is the last meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm in favor of a continuance because obviously I'm making assumptions, but I'll hear more. The changes that have been submitted are based on trying to make the project more palatable to the community. And without having a full review of it, then I don't have the ability to do a full review of moving forward today without that full review. And so what I have is a CEQA analysis based on the original project, not based on what has been submitted. I think that our job is to try to find a way to yes if it's possible. That doesn't mean we always go to yes, as you've seen historically that we have done some approval of denials and things like that through these appeals. But I think that we want to give both parties the chance to be able to either come to a compromise or maybe it just can't happen. But without that full review, that doesn't give due process to the possibility of that happening. So that's where I stand. And if there's nothing further, I would like to open it up for public comment. I would like to start first with the appellant and then the applicant before we move on to other public comment. And right now, we're talking about the continuance, so please keep your comments based on whether or not you want us to do that or not. Please.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. My name is Casey Shorrock. I'm an attorney with Somex Simmons and Dunn. I represent appellants Tom Lasik and Margot Kimbara. We're here today to present the appeal. We've reviewed the material. We've reviewed all of the material. It's been 88 days where we've had to, everyone's had the opportunity to look at all of this material, not the most recent material, but either way, we've reviewed it. We're ready to present our appeal and discuss the modified site plan. My comments today are similar to those made at the August 13th hearing. Disallowing the appeal to be heard today will greatly prejudice Tom and Margot, who have gone to great effort and expense to prepare for this hearing, to be here today, including the expense of having their legal counsel, me, present for the second time. These are just private citizens. They're not developers. They're not a corporation. Not hearing the appeal will also prejudice community members supporting the appeal who have taken time away from work and other responsibilities to be here today again for the second time. Community development and the applicant requested the last continuance for more time to review appellant's evidence and respond. They've had 88 days. Appellants have met every deadline given to them by community development. Even if they didn't fully understand the reasoning behind the deadline, they've met it. Appellants have followed all of the county's rules. Any ongoing consideration by CDD of the applicant's project changes and post-MND analysis occurs outside of any legitimate CEQA process. I won't go into that here because I know we're not discussing that, but I'm hearing talk about recirculation. That's not appropriate here under CEQA. You don't recirculate an MND. You prepare an EIR when an MND is sufficient. That's just the law. Even if the board decides to grant the second continuance, and obviously it can, we request that it grant it in part and that Tom and Margot and myself and the public be heard today and at least give you the information we have up to date, having reviewed all the materials. I have a presentation and I'm ready to present. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comment. If we can get the applicant to come up, and then we'll go ahead and continue with the rest.
Good morning, Supervisors. James Anderson with Everview Law. Let me adjust this. James Anderson with Everview Law on behalf of the applicant Highland Farms, LP. I just want to point out that there's a lot of discussion about modifications and amendments to the project and how the project's been approved. My understanding based on the county code is that the appeal stayed the decision of the Planning Commission. So right now there is not an approved project or an adopted MND. That's just a slight clarification. I won't get into the CEQA matters, but I also want to point out that appellants provided a prodigious amount of material that we did not have the ability to review until late last week, and we are still working through it as well as staff is. A continuance would grant staff and the applicant the time to properly respond to these comments in an effective manner. And I think that the new comments that were provided that, again, we didn't have available until late last week raise several new issues that I think staff needs to be able to analyze and the applicant would like the ability to fully respond to in due course. With that, I think I'll yield the rest of my time. I don't want to address any substantive CEQA issues unless it becomes, of moment here, but I'm happy to come back up and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Now for, sorry to say it, normal public comment rather than the representatives of the applicant and appellant. So please come on up. Yes, we're doing 3 minutes for each one.
Yes, that's fine. Chair Sabatier, Vice Chair Crandall, members of the board, thanks for at least hearing us out. I just want to recap how we got here. We had a planning commission hearing back in May. We filed our appeal on time. We asked the county when we should submit our supplemental material, and we went back and forth on that, and they eventually said have it in by July the 26th, and we had it in on time, and then nothing happened. We inquired with the county why the stuff wasn't being posted to Granicus, and we were informed by the county that they were going to wait until the last possible moment to post it. And sure enough, that's what they did. And then the next workday, they said, oh my gosh, all this stuff came in. We need a continuance so we have time to review. And with the goodwill and patience of the board, they granted the applicant and the county additional time to today. And it's been 88 days. And the good news is, well, it's been 88 days. They asked for time to review and respond. And the good news is they have. They reviewed it and they've responded, both the applicant and the county. Now, what they want to do is, as our attorneys pointed out, really isn't something that's allowed. And it's not something that we are ready to and want to discuss. We're here to discuss what was approved by the Planning Commission. That's what our appeal is based on. The information that we have provided is more or less is in response to these late entries from the applicant. And I think it's disingenuous for CDD to say that stuff came in 96 hours because we have letters from CDD more than a week ago saying they were fully intending to ask for a continuance. So to tell the board that, oh, stuff just came in, so now we have to ask, they knew they were going to ask for a continuance, and our attorney has responded with that objections over a week ago. So I would ask that you hear our appeal, and I would also ask that you be very, after public comment ends, ask the CDD what specifically is going on. Because some of the things, as we pointed out, really aren't permitted by CEQA, and it doesn't seem to be going through the county processes. We're hearing things about adopting and making new roads county roads, which doesn't affect our appeal one way or the other, but from what we know, you should be very careful about what you adopt, because we think it's a Trojan horse. But be that as may, we're ready to talk. We're ready to have the discussion so that you can make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I believe we got your name. Tom Lasik.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Sarah Bodner, consultant speaking on behalf of the project applicant. And I want to say that we share the frustration of the appellant here this morning in not being able to move forward. It's an uncomfortable place to have an appeal pending and to have a lot of issues be surfaced, and we'd like to respond. And we also understand that the very design, I think, of these deadlines has not set us up to win. We were extraordinarily frustrated that the 96 hours that we had been told was sufficient was then no longer sufficient, and that there was no staff report accompanying this. So I just want to say we also wish that we were in a different situation, but given that there is no staff report, there's no response from the county, and that a lot of new information was submitted and published on Friday, we're sort of in an impossible situation. But I also want to state that, you know, with this continuance, there allows more time for conversation. And leading up to this appeal over a month ago, the applicant, Highland Farms, submitted a request to have a conversation with the appellant that would be mediated by CDD, which is something that CDD offers, and I think it's a great service to allow dialogue. We don't need to wait till we end up in this courtroom to speak to each other and see if there's anything we can work through and work out. And I want to state that that invitation stands. And I think that, you know, we mentioned in our invitation for meeting, there were some project modifications that we were considering. We wanted to talk them through with the appellant, and we still do. So should this continuance allow for more time for that conversation, we'd be very willing to sit down either with or without legal counsel. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Please come on up.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Margot Kambara. I am a Lake County resident and appellant in this appeal. For the record, let me let you know that there is a CDD staff report for this round of revised and updated plans that were recently submitted. It was submitted at last minute by CDD. Returning to what I wanted to tell you, my neighbors and I urge your board to deny the request for a second continuance because it is wrong, legally and morally. 88 days ago, Community Development Department, CDD, and the applicant asked your board for a continuance to review our documentation, issues raised, and prepare a response. Today, CDD is asking for another continuance. CDD says that the applicant needs more time to replan the project, produce new reports, and CDD needs more time to review the applicant's new materials. The applicant's actions are illegal according to CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. Once a project is approved by the Planning Commission and its mitigated negative declaration, M&D, are approved, no more revisions, no more replanning is allowed. Any effort to improve the M&D after approval requires an environmental impact report. My neighbors and I ask your board to stop CDD's and the applicant's illegal activity. Do not grant the continuance. Hear the appeal today. Hear the appeal issues based on the project documents approved by the Planning Committee in May, not illegally replanned documents submitted after the continuance in August. The first continuance was prejudicial. A second continuance is also prejudicial, and it is wrong. For the second time, my neighbors took pains to attend this meeting. Some have rearranged international travel, others delayed family trips, and others took time off of work to be here. To continue the appeal again makes county residents return to the courthouse a third time is not a charm. There is a mistaken belief that we dumped appeal documents at the last minute for the first hearing date. To clarify, when we filed the appeal on May 28th, I asked CDD for a deadline to submit additional appeal information. I was not given a deadline. On June 21st, I asked CDD for a deadline for appeal materials. I did not receive a deadline. On July 8th, CDD sent email with hearing date August 13th. For the first time, CDD stated the deadline for appeal materials, July 26th. We met CDD's deadline. CDD had access to our supplemental appeal information for almost 3 weeks before the first hearing date. In its documents posted to the county website at least 96 hours prior to the first hearing, CDD did not request a continuance. In an email to appellant and counsel, CDD gave notice of its request for continuance less than a day prior to the first hearing date, only citing the need for more review.
If you can, your time is up.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. I was typing. Next, please. Anyone else have a comment? Please come on up.
My name is Bill Wilson, and my question is, what is it that the county is still trying to research as far as the environment? I know I have not heard anything about the health of the environment, the animals, the people. The ozone is produced from the cannabis. This place is going to have 5 acres of wide open growing, it looks like, from their plan. All of the birds, the animals are susceptible to respiratory problems.
So we're not talking about the project itself. We're talking about whether the public hearing happens today or a continuance.
Okay,
so
and I was thinking, from all of the trouble it sounds like we're having to try to consensus on that, I think that an EIR should be required, not this going back and forth and talking back and forth. I think we need to have an EIR for that particular project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Please come on up.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors and the staff. My name is Maria Kahn, and I am in support of this appeal. I would like it to be heard today. I myself have rearranged my schedule several times to attend these meetings, and as well as spent considerable time in the evenings writing things to speak and say, which are not being heard until we actually get to the appeal. So I believe that the Planning Commission made a mistake and pushed this project through too quickly before things were correctly done. And I think that the appeal needs to be heard, and these people should have their day in court because, again, they are not wealthy individuals, and this is costing a lot of people a lot of money to continue endlessly. So I support hearing out the statements of the appellant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm confused because I was one of the people who was inconvenienced by the first hearing not being heard. And I heard that CDD, with all due respect, Ms. Turner, in the minutes, it was said that the continuation was for the purpose of CDD and staff, not for the applicant. That was made clear in the minutes, and they can be checked. It appears that it was made for the applicant to try to satisfy the issues that were raised where due diligence was not done by the county and the applicant. The applicant must know these issues, but they tried to have this permit awarded by not doing their due diligence. And I'm sure their attorneys are very good attorneys and know that this is not their first rodeo. So I have read one of the changes that they wish to make now. I can tell you it is the bare minimum to satisfy CEQA, and it will not satisfy the community. And it is to do with the asbestos. So this can go on and on and on. I am against the continuation. I believe the people need to be heard, or this can keep going on to January, to June. We can go another year, because when the appellant is not satisfied, we will continue to try to satisfy the community's needs in this case. So I'm in favor of hearing the appellant and the public today, and not continuing to give these continuations.
Could we get your name, please?
Huya Pope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come on up.
Hi, I'm a registered voter, and my name's Leisha Cicada, and I just heard about this project that was happening, but my concern is the environment and the asbestos. I'm a rock hound. I know how dangerous asbestos is to breathe, to have in the environment, and I'm totally against the asbestos. Plants grow, certain plants grow there. They're invasive. They're rare, and you'd be disturbing that. But especially the asbestos. I swim in the lake. I kayak
If we can again speak to the continuation or not the continuation.
I'm for whatever the clients are for. So I'm not involved politically. I'm just concerned with the environment.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Please come on up.
Whoops, I almost knocked myself out with the microphone. Good morning, board. My name is Michelle Scully. I live in the Highland Springs area, and I am here to ask that you allow that there's no more continuance. In 88 days, a lot has happened. People have died, babies have been born. We brought in a pear harvest. Always relieved when that's over. We lost a house in a fire. I lost a horse. people have had all sorts of things happen in their personal lives. And it feels like we, the community, are the can that's being kicked down the road. And we're just regular people. Our neighbors have taken it upon themselves to hire representation, and my son's an attorney, and I can't even afford him. So I know that that's expensive. So I'm just asking that they have their time today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else in the board chambers wish to speak? I do not see any hands up in the Zoom room. I did see some hands for swearing in. Just want to double check. Raise your hand if you want to speak on the continuation or moving forward with the public hearing. And seeing none, we'll go ahead and close it down at this moment in time. Appreciate all the comments. I'll just speak briefly to it is frustrating when you are taking time out to be somewhere, but we also want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence on what it is that we have before us. What we have before us is a project that is being heard de novo. And so I'm going to check in with County Council. De novo means that we're starting fresh, we're starting from scratch, which means that alterations to the project can be made, wrong word, can be made, which then may require a review to see if we start all over, if we can move forward with just those small changes and still continue here, bring it back to the Planning Commission. Can you please speak to that to let us know what the process is?
Yes, that is correct. The review itself is de novo, so your board can take into consideration any proposals that may be presented to you by any of the parties at the public hearing for purposes of your board deciding whether to grant the appeal, deny the appeal, or grant the appeal in part or deny it in part under certain conditions.
Okay, I appreciate that. Because it was approved at the Planning Commission and appealed, there is a hold on that approval. It is not a project that's approved, or else that project would be active currently. So to say that the M&D is locked in, can you please speak to that?
Yes, that is correct. So effectively, because an appeal has been filed, there has been no approval of the project that was pending the appeal process.
Hence us taking this over again de novo. Okay, I just wanted to kind of speak to that since that was brought up a couple of times. And so I think this falls right into the process of being able to make alterations, being able to make sure and review those alterations so that we can come back, the appellants can come back, they'd have a great review right now, but maybe not a great review of the alterations. We need to have that review in front of us as well. We can't do that. We're not the experts. CDD with your department has that expertise to be able to do the review. We review the documents and make the best decisions we can based off those. So I'm still in favor of providing a continuance. Wanted to check in again. I see a nod. Okay, looks like there's a consensus to move forward. Vice Chair.
Yeah, so I'll just make this statement real quick. I hear the public and the appellant, and I feel empathy. You know, I understand. But as I see many of the comments coming in about this project, I cannot help but consider the amount of requests from many others and also supporters of the appellants, which on many occurrences are also requesting attention for other issues that are under the responsibility and purview of the Community Development Department. So as much as I do want to continue today, I do understand the amount of pressure the department is in. I get the emails, the texts, the follow-up requests, pressure on the department that require a lot more pressure on them. So, you know, and these requests that I get about these other projects and other issues often are just as, you know, I don't like the word indignant because that's not a fair word, but they're just very assertive about the attention of community development. So I'm okay with moving forward. I think and hope the next time we can move forward from there. It's always going to be perceived either way that the opposing party is receiving favors, so I get that. But I really do hope that the next time this is brought forward, we can move forward that day. So I'll just leave it at that. And
Appreciate your comments. Supervisor Green?
Yeah, appreciate the board's comments, appreciate comments of everyone here. And just a thought out loud, you know, I know that we have some proposed modifications that the applicant wishes to bring forward. I believe those modifications are intended to at least partially appease some of the comments raised by appellants. And without predicting how the hearing may unfold, I highly doubt that those olive branches will necessarily calm the comments of those opposed to this project. Given the number of people here, given the number of people who have expressed concerns that they might be inconvenienced or prejudiced if they're not able to testify today, I'm okay with continuing, but I'm also okay with accepting testimony today, if only for the fact that we have a lot of people that wish to testify today, so much so that we may, by necessity, have to continue to another date and time certain to receive any testimony we can't get through today. That said, it's a little unfortunate because we don't want to move the goalposts. We want your comments to be on point. And if applicants have made some substantial changes that would mitigate some concerns of those in the audience, you know, we should have full ability, applicants should have full ability to explain that to folks. Staff should have full ability to review what has been proposed and see if that you know, moves people's concerns in any way. But at the end of the day, if you want to move forward today with the project as it's presented, you know, be careful what you ask for is one thing I would say. But to the point of, if it is possible on county council, I would probably rely on you this. If we held a public hearing, or at least the first part of a public hearing today on the project as it's presented, absent present ability of staff to comment and absent the ability of the board to fully process the information presented. Is that a thing? Can we have half a public hearing and then continue to a date and time certain to complete the public hearing?
So typically, your board is in the past has conducted public hearings in a way where staff, CDD staff, would present their general presentation or evidence first, to be followed by the appellant's presentation of arguments and evidence. Staff at this hearing, requesting a continuance, as indicated that in light of recent documents that they received from the applicant, that a continuance is being requested because they need more time to review that. So in light of those circumstances, if your board, and your board does have that option, but if your board does decide to have any of the other parties aside from staff present evidence and arguments first, it is my understanding that CDD staff would not be prepared to address those more recent updates or documents that were received for purposes of their presentation. And so if your board decides to take evidence and arguments from one side and then decide to continue it, it may end up being, it may end up taking up pretty much the same amount of time, because then at that point that would be the time that CDD staff would need to address both the original original arguments and evidence that was presented at the Planning Commission level, in addition to any updates, as well as the updates that have been presented just more recently.
I think I heard a single continued hearing down the road would be cleaner, the cleaner approach.
That would be, short answer would be, your board can certainly, has the discretion to take in the evidence and the sequence of that. However, in light of staff's representation this morning as to in response to the recent updates, it may, to your question, to your point, it may be more streamlined just to continue the whole thing at a later date.
Okay. So now I do want to have a brief conversation because there's obvious consensus here. I want to check in with both the appellant and the applicant about the remind me again the mid-December date. There was a bit of a criteria to meeting that date. What is
the mid-December date was offered as strictly an update. We're more comfortable knowing that we can go forward with the public hearing in the January date. So January 14th at 9:15, or if the board would like an update, December 10th at 1 o'clock. But given the inconvenience that's been stated by multiple members of the public, we would prefer to have the January date where we know that we would have had time to do the recirculation of CEQA should it be required, rather than have everybody come back for an update in December where we tell you again that we're not ready.
Okay, and right now we're only looking at January 14th for the final. You had offered January 7th and 14th. Is this
January 7th is your first board meeting, which is typically pretty jam-packed. Okay. So January 14th would be the next available agenda.
Okay. I'd like to hear from both the appellant representation and the applicant representation on that date and time certain, 9:15 a.m. on the 14th.
Just real quick.
Oh, please.
Lloyd, I just wanted to ask, or even Director Turner, so what happens if either party starts turning in more information and then you have to, you know what I mean, more documents? And because I also heard from the community and from the folks that this could keep going on if we continue to do this. So what happens if they either or submit more and now we have to review it? How can we get to a point where that just kind of like we get from here forward or something of the like?
So the decision to continue an item is entirely up to the board. Should we come back to you in January and say we thought we were ready, but we received another 281 pages of input recently, it would be up to you to decide if you wanted to give us time to consider and evaluate that new information, or if you decided that it was time to move forward.
Thank you.
Appreciate the question.
Yes, because like on my end, I really, with that being considered, I really hope, I know that it was said that there hasn't been a lot of communication between the parties. I really hope at least have one sit down with each other and that way there's at least eliminate some differences or whatever the case may be, or if not, then agree to disagree and come back. But with that helps me to move forward. But I also would encourage that, you know, when we come back, for me, if they come back with more documents, I want to move forward. I don't want to keep postponing this. I want to rip the Band-Aid off and be done.
Supervisor Green?
Just to follow up on that, I appreciate the sentiment, but similarly, if they want to move forward today, the instruction could be, at least amongst ourselves, to not necessarily put a lot of weight or accept a lot of comment on those freshly filed documents and hear it as the original appeal was filed. You know, if there's eagerness to move forward on the original bundle. But I agree. If I thought there was like some real possibility for movement, but most of the evidence, most of the comments filed to date have not really been looking for that middle ground, you know, and it's unfortunate. But when we're doing land use permitting, you know, private property owners have rights to file applications. They have a right to have it move forward, and it's okay to throw comments and stuff like that that may be designed to improve a project or actually lessen some of its known defects. I think a lot of the comments made so far are not necessarily aimed toward improving the project, but just toward blocking it entirely. So with that said, there may be some reason to think about at least plowing ahead today
based on their request to do so, and absolving staff of any immediate need to comment on the late file documents. But that would depend on applicant kind of agreeing to proceed under that basis.
No, please.
And I hear you on that. I just see it as much as inconvenience as it is to come here and have it continued. I would feel it would be an inconvenience and also unfair for folks to make comments that they're going to feel like they're not heard because it's going to be continued anyhow. So I don't know.
I think it's cleaner to make sure that we're looking at the latest version of what is being proposed as a project, rather than hearing comments on a version that has not been vetted by staff as well as purely vetted by the public at this moment in time. And I think that we would just be doubling up on the type of comments that we receive, and so let's keep it clean and let's keep it about what it is that we're looking to move forward or deny with. I want to go back to the January 14th, 9:15 a.m. Proposition for the next iteration of this appeal, and I'd love to hear from the appellant as well as the applicant. Please.
Casey Shorak here for the appellant. We are okay. We are available, I should say, on the January 14th date. We'd obviously like to be heard today, but we can make the January 14th date.
Thank you very much.
James Anderson on behalf of the applicant again. We would agree with the January 14th date, and potentially I know that there's no ability for CDD to hold anyone legally or through county code to any dates, but maybe make a recommendation that all parties' materials are turned into CDD at some time before the 14th, potentially earlier in January, that gives CDD time to properly analyze all the comments, and the submissions from both parties and adequately address them in a staff report. Just a suggestion. I know that there is no formal way to hold us to that, but maybe an informal agreement of sorts. Thank you.
Please come on back.
Appellate, Casey Shorak here again. Appellate would agree to a firm date should CDD create a firm date that allows them to consider materials on either side of this issue, sort of a stop measure in place so that this can actually be considered and this can move forward and appellates can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. So I appreciate the middle ground that we have found today. And I don't know that the board will provide a specific date, but what we will ask is for CDD to provide that date to both the appellant and the applicant as to what that deadline could be in excess of the 96 hours to get paperwork. I am a little concerned that that's not going to really make a difference because already I heard complaints about the 96 hours, so extending it further just doesn't quite perfectly make sense to me. But if that's your request, I'm happy to look for consensus for CDD to provide a date certain for all documentation.
There are known dates for submission of documents in regards to when we need to get it up into Granicus to get into an agenda. So it needs to be done 15 days prior to the hearing date, which in this case is January 1st. So that would be a little earlier, just to accommodate for the holiday. Additionally, that's not allowing for staff time. The allowing for enough staff time to review it is a little squishier because it depends on what we're getting. If it's just letters of position, that's no big deal. If it's something that is substantive that may require input or CEQA analysis, that's different. So I'm not able to give an informal date at this time because we respond to what's coming in.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think that it's been stated, thank you, Vice Chair, for making this statement. I too don't want to see this continued. In my mind, this is the last date that I will support moving forward and having to continue it to. And at that point, we need to give closure to both the applicant and the appellants. And so that's...
It is our hope that the majority, the applicant has been working repackage the project to make it more palatable for the community. So we understand what's happening there, and that's why we're actually requesting the time to analyze it, so that when it does come before you, it's a package that's ready for the public to address and the board to consider. So it is not our goal to drag this on forever. We'd really love to get this done. We have plenty of other things to keep us busy, but I feel uncomfortable giving a hard answer just because we don't know what's going to come in. However, if it's just letters of response from one way to the other, that's no big deal. So long as it's not a substantive change in the project, we feel very comfortable with this proposed new date and time.
And so at this moment, you're recommending that we just leave it at the 96 hours that is on the current ordinance that we have?
The public is free to send in comments at any time.
Of course.
Yeah, then we welcome it as well.
I believe it's evidentiary document. County council is the term used for the 96 hours. Public comment, you can come up to the microphone and provide public comment.
Well, and that's the standing Lake County code, so we're happy to abide by that.
Yeah, the 96, I'll have to double check on that, but in deference to staff, I believe that's what they're referencing, 96 hours under the county code or ordinance.
Okay, so at this point, I'm looking, Vice Chair.
Just a quick question. Obviously, it's going to be in a new year with the new potential board, well, actually a new board. One where the candidate's coming from a different spot, another one that may win would be a new candidate that would fill a position as well. However, if another candidate is the winner, he was a planning commissioner. How does that work in that situation, if that's the case? Because we have two candidates, one that's a planning commissioner right now, and if he fills the spot, he voted in the previous situation, or because it's de novo, it doesn't make a difference.
Even in that scenario, if there are grounds for recusal, that may need to occur. If we're faced with that, if your board is faced with that situation.
And then with that potential situation, what happens if there becomes like a 2-2?
That means no.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be passed
Okay.
under that scenario. But yeah, those would be taken under the procedural rules that would be already in place.
Okay.
At that point.
Because I know that in a planning commission meeting, there was a 2-1 and it still didn't pass. So I just trying to get these things lined up now before this potentially happens. It may not even go that way, but just to have it, yeah.
There are changes coming up. Appreciate that. Now, at this moment in time, we've closed public comment. We seem to have agreed on January 14th at 9:15 a.m. And at this moment, I did miss something that I do want to speak out loud about. I did receive a public comment. That individual is in the room, did not come up, but since I have the paperwork, there's Dale Carnathan who submitted a public comment on this item that he objects to the continuance and approve of appellant's argument. And so just wanted to at least say that rather than forget that that was on my desk. Now I'm looking for action. Thank you. Supervisor Green.
Just real quick, I'm going to try. I just want to take advantage of the cooperative spirit expressed by council. So 96 hours, great. That would get us on 5 p.m. November 9th, January 9th. But you're right, it depends on what you get. So if we get something late, that wouldn't thing. What we have seen in the record so far is some pretty thoughtful and extensive comment letters from council that I would basically describe as opening briefs. If we got those big chunky letters, 96 hours, that could raise issues that you'd still be kind of struggling with. So the suggestion might be, if we could, and council were willing to address that their comment letters, such as they're going to be, the chunky monkeys, the opening arguments, could be set like no later than 5 p.m. January 3rd, Friday, and then if and then serve it on opposing counsel. And then if there were any last-minute reply letters or something like that, that could be filed by January 9th within the 96-hour time frame. And that would allow them to frame their arguments, do any replies, but not disadvantage you quite as much. So would there be any interest or ability to voluntarily ask counsel for applicant and appellants to lock in their first salvos for January 3rd, and then leaving open that 96-hour deadline for further comment or replies?
The item needs to be uploaded to Granicus, so that means done, finished by probably December 30th, because January 1st would be that posting deadline for the agenda. We're sending it to Johanna to put up on the agenda date.
For January 14th meeting?
Yes, it's 15 days prior to a hearing. So it needs to come in there. I think it is safe to say that should we receive any substantive documentation by early December, then even working through the holiday, because we're gone for a week that month, we may have time. That's a good amount of time to be able to work through that. So we work with substantial deadlines because you got to allow the week for agenda review, as well as and any amendments that need to take place in that. So we work with a 15-day time frame at which we let go of it. It goes up into the agenda. So early December is manageable.
I feel like we've already gone over that point, and so appreciate the looking for other alternatives, but I'm not seeing a change of mind, at least on the board. And so again, I'm going to be looking for, want to entertain motion.
And I'd look to county counsel for the form of the motion.
So for your board's consideration, there would be a motion to continue this hearing to a date and time certain. That would be January 14 at 9:15 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. I know that you are a bit frustrated with the process, but thank you for coming, and submit your comments via email, send them to us, or hopefully you'll be available on January 14th to provide them here in the courtroom or in the board chambers. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 10:30. Calling all supervisors, calling all supervisors.
That's what the ones I'm talking about. Oh, that one's being no, not yet. That one's
All right, let's go ahead and reconvene. We're going to go on item 6.5, 9:45 a.m., consideration of annual report of the Maternal, Child, and Adolescent Health Advisory Board. Please come on up to the front, take a seat, get comfortable. Good morning.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Samantha Bond. I'm the Executive Director for First 5 Lake, and I happen to be the Chair of the Maternal Child Adolescent Health Advisory Board. I'm joined up here with me do you want to introduce yourself, actually?
I'm Alex Kellner. I'm the Maternal Child Adolescent Health Coordinator for the program for the County Public Health Services.
Sabrina Andrus, Executive Director of Motherwise and Board Member of MCH.
Push the button.
Yeah, I didn't push that.
Soledad Aguayo, Early Intervention Supervisor with Easter Seals and...
I apologize, I don't think that's working.
Sabrina Andrus with Motherwise. She's a board member for the advisory board, as well as Soledad Aguayo from Easter Seals is also a board member. So I want to just kind of say that this advisory board hasn't been in front of the Board of Supervisors in quite a while. We do recognize that. We've had a lot of shifts and changes in not only the advisory board, but the MCH staff themselves. And so it's been quite a bit. As most of us know, COVID kind of changed the trajectory of where a lot of things were going. So we've had a lot of rebuilding that we've been doing. So to start, I would like to just kind of give an overview as to what is MCAH and then what is the advisory board. So MCAH is a federal and state-funded public health program designed to improve the health of women, infant, children, and adolescents. Our key focus areas are prenatal and postpartum care, infant and child health services, including breastfeeding, immunization, and checkups, adolescent health. Some examples are sexual health education and mental health support, family planning and reproductive health, and home visiting services. For this advisory board specifically, our role is to advise the Lake County MCH staff, the Department of Social Services, Health Services, and the Board of Supervisors on the needs of the communities, the action of the advisory board, and the recommendations to MCH staff. Our purpose is to promote and advocate for the physical and social and emotional health of pregnant people, children, adolescents, and their families in Lake County by sharing resources and coordinating activities. We've worked extensively on these 4 high-level goals, and then we have some sub-goals that we've worked on throughout the years. So we increase public awareness on health concerns and challenges pertaining to pregnant people, children, adolescents, and their families, support ongoing efforts towards building coordinated and effective healthcare delivery systems, promote access to healthcare for pregnant people, children, adolescents, and their families, and identify and advocate for unmet health needs. Our board members consist of myself as the chair, Soledad as the vice chair, Nicole Query from Partnership Health Plan, Sabrina Andrus from Otherwise, Rachel Dimon Parsons from Social Services, who's in the back there, and Kim Schott from WIC. We also have members of the public who attend very regularly, and so their agencies are listed here if they are outside of the board themselves. So we have members from Adventist Health, First 5, Health and Social Policy Institute, Hope Rising, Behavior Health, Public Health, Social Services, Tribal Health, Lake Family Resource Center, and Redwood Community Services. We are hoping that this list continues to go on and gets extensive as we go along, but right now that's who we have for the last year. I made it mad. Let's go back. Okay, it's looking funky, but it's fine. So again, I want to mention that over the last 2 years since I've been chair of this advisory board, we have looked at what is this board what is this board, and what do we want to accomplish, and where do we want to be. And so we've done a lot of internal work. So we did a lot of work around our bylaws. In fact, we spent an entire year on our bylaws, and realized the bylaws we were operating under in January of 2018, excuse me, were not actually approved by the Board of Supervisors, but we were operating under them anyway. So we got those up, fixed up and redone, and we did get them approved by this Board of Supervisors back in January of this year. We also worked to rebuild the board. At the start of the year, we only had 3 board members, so we doubled. So I'm going to take that as a huge win. And then we increased our community engagement. And those 2 things we're still continuing to work on as we move forward. We really do want to have more people attend, and we really want to have more people giving their voice. For the members of the public, we do allow it to be virtual, so they can join us via Zoom, but all board members do attend in person, as it is a Brown Acted meeting. We also worked on a home visiting collaborative, which is a standalone subcommittee. Back in 2019, the MCH staff had taken on a grant from First 5 California to uplift a home visiting program here in Lake County. Unfortunately, due to COVID, that didn't happen right away, and it wasn't unique to Lake County, but First 5 California decided to take a look at that grant and decided that instead of working directly with MCHs across the state, they wanted to work just with First 5s and do a more regional approach and more of a technical assistance approach. So First 5 Lake did take over that grant, and we did take over the home visiting collaborative, but I will say that the MCH staff has worked on for the last 2 years uplifting their Healthy Families home visiting program. It took them about a year to get all of the trainings and documentations, which was very extensive, to get that up and running, and they are seeing quite a bit of clients now. We also looked at, one of the questions we had in that group was, what is home visiting and what is versus home-based services, especially when we're looking at the younger population. And so we've worked on defining what home visiting is. We've worked on the CalAIM initiative and understanding those changes, and I can tell you that we still don't know. It's an ever-learning process, and we're still learning it. And then we wanted to bolster our relationship with Partnership Health Plan. As you may have noted, we have a Partnership Health Plan member as our board member, and so she has worked really, really heavily with us to coordinate other Partnership Health Plan departments to help us get that understanding around CalAIM, understanding of how we can collaborate and connect more. And we actually have a lot of Lake County information on their websites. And then what I gave in front of you is the needs assessment. So every 5 years, the MCH staff has to conduct a needs assessment. It should be no surprise to this board that the needs assessment highlighted poverty, access to care, and substance and mental health use supports as some of the highest needs within our communities. So those are some of the focus areas that staff has identified and are working towards on their scope of work. We also restarted the Breastfeeding Coalition. It had kind of dwindled down during COVID, and we tried to do it as a standalone subcommittee, but realized that we weren't getting the attendance that we needed and weren't making waves. So we kept it as a standing item for the MCH Advisory Board. Since then, we have been able to look at what were some of the things that we've done in the past that we want to look at, or that we want to continue, things that we want to look forward to in the future, and where can we start today. So one of the things we talked about was the comfort station at all local events, or most local events, I should say. So the comfort station is a pop-up tent that happens at events where any member of the public can come and sit in one of the really comfortable rocking chairs and either breastfeed, bottle feed, or just rock a toddler who's grumpy because they're standing out there in the heat. We are in the process of looking at replacing our diaper changing station, which we don't currently have right now. And then in certain areas, we actually have built environments. So for example, if there's an event happening on Main Street, Lakeport, Motherwise has opened their doors as a internal comfort station versus setting up the pop-up tent, which is a little bit more comfortable. We also have a place in Kelseyville that also does that for all their events. And so we're looking at some other places around the lake to do the same. But for areas that maybe can't have access to a built environment, we have the comfort station that we popped up. And we just had it at the health fair this past weekend. We also updated our logo. And after we do our logo, we're going to update flyers, signs, and educational materials. But this is our brand new logo for our Breastfeeding Coalition. And we're very excited. So if you see this in the community, that means it's a breastfeeding, bottle feeding, family-friendly area that you can come and visit and find out more information about. So that's what we've been up to for the last year. Looking forward, we have some state priorities that MCH has to kind of look at. These are just their high-level pieces. They have the 5 buckets, which is women and maternal health, perinatal and infant health, child health, children and youth with special health care needs, and adolescent health. And basically all of those things underneath of it say, ensure that they're healthy, happy and healthy. So that's kind of where we're at with our goals. So I kind of told you our 4 high-level goals that we put within our own. It does mimic these, it's just not in the same buckets. And then we, as a collaborative, went, or as an advisory board, talked for several meetings about what do we want to do to support MCH staff and to bolster these objectives within our community. And we highlighted these focus areas. So we want to bring local trainings to parents and providers, especially around harm reduction and breastfeeding supports. Substance use during pregnancy and breastfeeding. There was an ask for a lot of information around that and being able to get that out. Addressing access to care, specifically for us, that would be doulas, midwives, and OBs. And this will help address and reduce birth disparities here in our community. Providing community and with more safe sleep information and SIDS awareness. We actually just had Adventist Health come to the advisory board and present their safe sleep information that they present to their clients. It is a mimicked presentation at Tribal Health. And then I'm not sure about Sutter. They did have a safe sleep class, but I'm not sure that it's currently happening, but that is something on our awareness and agenda. Additionally, we also talked about where else in the community can we do safe sleep information, and childcare was brought up, so home-based childcare. And then MCH staff themselves are working on their curriculum for first responders, to give them more information around SIDS awareness for first responders. We also want to increase access to screening and supports for maternal mental health. I'll tell you that Motherwise is taking a huge point on this, and so we'll have a 3-year projection plan around this. I'm very excited about that. And then we want to continue our board recruitment. As I mentioned, I would love to have a board of supervisors actually sit on our board, if possible, if not as a member of the public. We did have one in the past that was attending. It is not a requirement of this board, but it is an ask that we do have. So key takeaways are that MCH programs play a critical role in improving family health outcomes. Our local efforts are essential to addressing health disparities and improve access to care, and that the continued support and innovation will drive future success. And that support is both from the Board of Supervisors as well as from the public to come and help us learn what we don't know. Our board meetings meet every second Thursday of every month from 9 to 10:30 at the LCOE Learning Lab. We are staying in Lakeport because we found that that's the best place for us to get attendance. So it's pretty stagnant right there. And then you can always email us at first5@lakecountyca.gov if you want to be invited to those meetings. And that's it.
Thank you for your presentation. Any other comments? All right, questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Green?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I'm very excited. I know it's been a little while since this report happened. I have another committee which I'm hoping to get goosing up and get some reports to the board. When you're advisory to the board, it's nice to hear from you. One super quick question. Is this a statutory committee, a creature of the legislature and the board appointments and all that, or in support of that? And I haven't read through your bylaws, I apologize. So just a little additional detail on process and how MCH exists both in state law and how we deal with it here on the board level.
It is. MCH actually stems all the way back to child labor laws and has morphed throughout the years, obviously, to be more health-based. The advisory boards are Brown acted. We do have to have it be appointed by this board. And so, yes, to answer your question.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate everything you presented. A year-long deep dive into the bylaws is not a fun thing for anybody, but I appreciate it. It gives structure and it supports your mission and will give future board members some clarity that will be helpful. Thank you for that.
Supervisor Pyska?
I appreciate the invitation for someone from this board to be added to your board, and we are doing board assignments in the first week of January. So if you want to get that information to the admin office, then we can put it on the list when we start filtering through those in the next few weeks.
So I do have a question. First off, thank you for the presentation. I see a certain amount of overlap between MCH and First Five, a certain level of overlap. I know that you said that you were really happy. You've grown your membership over the course of the past year from 3 to 6, but I know that in First Five, we still struggle to meet the overall membership. We have vacancies, therefore it makes it a little bit difficult sometimes when we can't meet quorum. Is there a way to maybe connect the two together so it's kind of like one meeting after the other where there can be some similar membership between First Five and MCAH to help? Just because there's that overlap and obviously staff member similarities, and just kind of wondering if that might be a way to find which supervisor to place on the advisory board and also ensure that membership is easier since it's similar membership from one group to the next rather than two completely separate ones. Just a thought.
It's an interesting thought. I don't have an answer to that other than we do have our own statutory requirements around who can be on the First Five Commission, which is different than who can be on the MCH. We have a lot more broader reach for MCH Advisory Board. There are a lot of similarities. I will agree with you for that. And First Five also looks at not just the child health, but also looking at the development of them. And we're very niche within the 0 to 5 range, whereas MCAH is prenatal through 18.
That was my next question, was adolescent. Describe the age group, so all the way to 18. Yeah. It was just a thought, just because I think we're seeing that same difficulty in membership in other advisory boards, and if it's possible to go 2 to 4 or 2 to 3, it's not always an hour for First Five, and then 3 to 4 for MCAH. That way, it's just one block of meetings rather than all separate. And anyways, just putting it out there as a possibility. But I agree. In January, we redo our appointments, and I think this would be a good one to make sure to have a supervisor on there. I think it's good for us to be involved, so we're not just aware, but we bring back stuff to the Board of Supervisors. It's easier done that way.
I have a question on timing. So if, for example, the MCH board discusses this and we decide it is a good idea to sort of stack the two in terms of meetings, when would you guys need to know that in terms of appointments for supervisors on various boards, commissions, et cetera?
I think it would be easiest to know by the January date so that we can organize who's going to make what meeting so we don't overlap it with other meetings.
Okay.
I would submit that to the admin office by the beginning of December.
December, okay.
That's when we start circulating.
Perfect, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other comments? Let's go ahead and open it up for public comment regarding this presentation and the ask. And I see no one in the chamber and no hands in the Zoom room. So I feel like we should be taking some kind of action today because we don't have an appointment from the Board of Supervisors at this moment in time. Do we need a motion today to say we want that to be added and be active as of January? Because we don't have a seat to appoint to at this moment in time. What's the process that we need to follow to make sure that we're ready in January?
We don't have an action on the agenda, though.
It does say appointment.
It says at the bottom, no action.
Really? I just opened it. I thought it said appointment.
Mr. Chair. Yeah, it says
Oh, did they
presentation
change it?
and possible appointment.
County Council, please.
So,
Somebody help me.
so what your board suggested can be done by direction of staff by consensus to create such a position for purposes of appointment.
Okay, and then the appointment itself will be made and approved by the board in January, as discussed. Okay. Is that, looks like I'm getting 3
in
nods,
agreement.
4 or 5, so unanimous nod that yes, please add a supervisor to the list, and then we will get that appointment done in January.
Oh, wait, how many members do you have now?
We have 6 members right now.
That would be 7.
It actually makes it that much better. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for your presentation, and keep up the good work. Important work. We'll move on to item 6.6, 10 a.m. Consideration of proposed 2-year plan to complete the wildfire benefit assessment zone pilot project, and we have our community development team coming up. Deputy Director Walker and Director Turner, as well as Code Enforcement Officer Marcus, or Supervisor, Manager, Marcus Beltramo. Yeah, next time I'll simplify it, please.
Maria Turner, Community Development Director. The Wildfire Benefit Assessment Program started in 2019 from a Prop 218 ballot process to establish an assessment zone for wildfire or hazardous vegetation management. The boundaries aligned exactly with the previous benefit assessment zone, which had been done for roads years before that. In its operation since 2019, this pilot program has presented a number of challenges. Back in 2019, we had limited staff resources, high staff turnover, and as that has smoothed out under Marcus's leadership, we have over the years addressed a number of properties. We have not in the past did not do liens against those properties because of lack of staff resources and lack of staff training. However, in the last couple of years, things have smoothed out considerably. We've had stable staff. We dedicated 1 staff member to addressing this program, just this program. He does other things, but 1 single staff member then to oversee this hazardous vegetation management, which is just limited to the subdivisions in the Rivieras. So the Kelseyville Riviera, Riviera Heights, Riviera West, and Buckingham. We've also had regular meetings with representatives of each HOA. And so the progress has gone very well. It's also given us time to talk and confer with County Council regarding the recapturing of those funds. In that time, it was made clear to us that we cannot recapture those funds because the benefit assessment was done for the purpose of hazardous vegetation management, and to place a lien on the property would in effect be double dipping or making property owners pay for the hazardous vegetation that they had paid for with their assessment with the Prop 218 process. We've learned a number of things in this pilot program since 2019 that will inform us as we move forward with a county-wide hazardous vegetation management program, which we intend to do because in the last couple of years we've noticed a sharp increase in complaints regarding hazardous vegetation throughout the roughly 60,000 parcels that the county manages. And so we have benefited from a number of lessons. Because this is not a revolving fund meant to go on forever, and because the activity that we have performed has been subtracted from the fund balances as established in 2019. We were thinking about how can we continue to use those funds to benefit the hazardous vegetation management in the Riviera subdivisions to the best of our ability. And so what you have before you today is a plan that the department worked out for a 2-year continuation and final closure of this pilot program, which will address the large draw of, or the large dedication of staff resources necessary to operate it, as well as continue to provide those services that the property owners voted for the remaining 2 years. Deputy Administrator Shannon Walker-Smith is here to walk you through the next 2-year plan. And Cannabis Program Manager Marcus Beltramo is here to answer any questions you may have. So I will turn it over to Shannon. Oh, also the slides for the presentation were included as an attachment, and Johanna's just about to get them up on the screen. Thank you. 10 a.m. one.
6.6.
Additionally, we do have representatives from 3 of our 4 HOAs that are prepared to answer any questions. Also, they would like to give a short presentation if they may. They were requesting 10 minutes if that's amenable to the board.
And that was requested, and I did check with Supervisor Pyska. We'll go ahead and provide longer than 3 minutes since they're a representative and not just an individual public member.
Great. Thank you.
Just to make clear, this is a presentation that we gave to our partners with the HOAs in September to kind of give them an update on where we were with this project. Before we start into where we are with our current fiscal update, I was asked to put together a few numbers, kind of outlining just the project as a whole. So just to bring everyone up to speed, this assessment originally collected approximately $485,000. We have spent approximately $185,000 of that. So the remaining, that's where so it's 306 is the real number. And in spending that $185,000 over since 2019, in 2019, 20, 2021, and 21, 22, 85 abatements were completed. In 22, 23, we didn't complete any abatements. That we're retooling the program at that point. And then in 23, 24, 22 abatements were completed. And then I'm going to present on this current has-veg season that is wrapping up now. So that's almost 100 abatements completed over the course of the project for that 185. So this slide that's up now outlines the balances of each HOA or each service area, I should say, and showing you how that totals to the 306 that remains. Next slide. And then in 24, 25, so the current has-veg season that we're wrapping up right now, this was as of September 25th, these stats. We had received 274 complaints, performed over 125 inspections. We closed 100 cases due to no violation or people who voluntarily self-abated. 1 abatement had begun on this project in September in the Riviera West, and 4 warrants had been prepped. Marcus, I think that those 2 of the 4 warrants, those abatements have been completed to date. That's my understanding as well. So 2 of the 4 that were being prepped in September, 2 of those have been completed and the other 2 are scheduled. And 5 citations with fines issued, we're hoping to collect through data ticket, have been issued, with more being prepped to go out. So that's what's been completed in 24-25 on this project. I'm going to pass it back to Director Turner.
As I stated in the introduction, the benefit assessment zones were established through the one-time assessment program, compliant with Prop 218. There was no mechanism adopted into that program that would allow for the recovery of the funds that were expended for abatement. Additionally, as that third bullet point explains, because code enforcement was the default enforcement arm of this program, we are bound by Chapter 13 due process timelines as well as notification efforts. So as we work with the Homeowners Association, which they're all avidly working with their property owners already. So by the time it gets to us, it's the ones that they haven't been able to move forward on. So then that starts our timeline, which is an initial contact to the owner, allowing for time for self-abatement, second notice, then we need a warrant. So it's very time intensive on our staff resource side.
Next slide. So again, this just kind of outlines the differences in the 2 processes that kind of got conflated between the CSA, its authority and process based on state code, and then how code enforcement operates. And that is the kind of the root of why this program has been difficult for CDD to operate successfully, and has prompted our kind of re-looking at this program again and the proposal that we're going to put before you today. Because of the time-intensive nature of this, really the challenge has been the dedication of staff time. We have, as Director Turner mentioned, we have a dedicated program supervisor who is spending approximately 25% of his time on this project now. He also supervises our AVA program and our new illegal dumping grant, all very important high priorities, right? So it becomes difficult to manage, and it seems that we would be much more successful operating this program with dedicated staff paid for from these funds. So next slide. We have put together a proposal to utilize the 306 to both fund the salary of a dedicated officer to this project and the expenses, a little tiny bit of overhead expenses, and then the abatements are listed as professional services. And it shows in year 1, and for this, should we move forward with this proposal, we would start this kind of restart this project in January. And so it would go from January 1st and wrap at the end of 26, supporting a full-time officer over those 2 years. So this breaks down the 306 for the first year, and then if you'll, next slide shows how we would resolve the fund in 2 years with both the officer's time and the professional services of abatement contractors, split roughly the way that the money came in, and the percentages are listed in the attached budget, which is more detailed than this presentation. Next slide. So we've put quite a bit of thought into what that officer would do, because the HASVEG season is, not the full year. So really being thoughtful about what that officer would do in what would be considered the off season. And so we've kind of outlined that for you here. And next slide. So we are hoping to get some direction or approval to move forward with this proposal. And should that be the case, then we would open we would have to formally amend our budget, open a code officer position, and fill it by 1/1/25, and then dedicate that officer full-time to the remainder of this project for the next 2 years.
Anything further?
I think that's it.
All right, let's go ahead and open it up for questions or comments regarding this presentation. Should we go to the HOAs?
Yep.
All right. I know that we had some representatives of the local HOAs in the Rivieras. Please come on up. And again, we'll give you more than 3 minutes. Okay. Hopefully they'll be back.
Thank you for some additional time. My colleague and I.
If you can speak in the microphone, please.
Right. Good morning. My name's Phil Hartley. I'm president of Riviera West Board of Directors. Also serve on the Konocti Fire Safe Council and on a really interesting assignment working as a member of the General Plan Advisory Committee, which is a great group, really something else. We carry with us in our presentation, Kathy and I, the concerns and comments of our two fellow HOA presidents. So we appreciate some additional time so that everyone can be, all four communities can be heard. This pilot project to remove hazardous vegetation from neglected properties has followed a very long 5-year bumpy and crooked road marked by conflicting legal issues and conflicting communication issues, as well as many prior expectations of the program that were created during the process of voting. Those expectations were created by a former supervisor at public presentations, as reported in the newspaper, and a lot of documentation before that. But as my legal beagle friend told me, yes, but Phil, you've got to remember that promises made during an election process, are not legally defendable after the election. So we understand that those expectations were not carried out because they were not codified in the actual legislation that the board passed in order to enact. Nobody's fault there. It just is unfortunate that a lot of expectations of the voters and the HOAs were not met. However, consequently, the assigned county department was faced with creating a map of procedures and a vehicle for implementation from scratch. Community development literally built the vehicle as it went, sort of like building an airplane in flight. It's very difficult. Although the four communities have great empathy for county staff assigned with this very difficult task, the multi-year delay and lack of complete accountability has been frustrating to all the communities involved. We had sincerely hoped that this would be another example of a successful community Board of Supervisors project, cooperative project. But today is the first day of the rest of the journey, and it is renewed resolve that the 4 HOAs are more than willing to assist with the completion of the pilot, offering any helpful assistance, direct support, advice, and knowledgeable expertise. To ensure the success of the next step and to provide clear accountability, we would ask that the Board of Supervisors postpone consideration of this specific proposal to provide the time and opportunity for the 4 communities to have meaningful input into the drafting of a map for completion. This time will allow for, first of all, fiscal liability or fiscal information to catch up with the program in a sense. Currently, there is a lack of complete information concerning which parcels have been cleared, how much has been expended to clear these parcels, and what funds have been recovered from cited property owners, if any. I would offer the Riviera West Fund Report that I've distributed to you as an example of where we are at this very moment, where you can see that we started out with $48,000 in our fund. We have a balance of $30,000 left, and for a calculated expenditure of $18,000. But we can only account for about $6,000 of that $18,000. There's four properties listed there and the cost of clearing each. There's some small, as you say, some small charges for indirect costs, and then some undefined expenditures that are only identified by code numbers that are yet to be defined. Even then, that leaves about $5,800 that's simply not accounted for. Where did that money go? It's taken from our fund, and we don't know why or where it went. Now, Deputy Administrator Walker Smith has been working very tirelessly to trace revenues and expenditures and providing information to us as it is developed. I have every confidence that the accounting will ultimately be clear and valid. However, that is going to take some time. Complete and valid fiscal information is essential both for public accountability and for making wise decisions about what steps to take next. We simply need to know how the funds are being distributed and used. Secondly, this prospect to spend 47% of all the remaining funds on a full-time employee to carry out the program is just not warranted. All four HOAs regularly, every year, annually, conduct professional inspections, including the use of certified arborists when necessary, posting properties, issuing legal citations and reminders, assessing fines according to the process regulations, according to due process regulations, taking small claims court actions, and placing liens on continuingly non-responsive properties. That experience and knowledge allows us to make qualified assessments of the time and reasonable cost of managing this project. This year alone, this summer, Riviera West, which is the smallest of the four, issued 119 citations. All that has to go through a process of notification, posting, due process to allow owners to appeal, and then a fine process which has its own process, and then we start our process of going to small claims court to get the money, and we place liens on property. We do all that as an internal process year after year after year. We're pretty good at it. Okay. From the start of this project, we have always supported using the revenue funds to pay for reasonable administrative costs. But this discussion has never occurred until this month, essentially, or until October. And as we've always believed that the funds should pay for the administrative overhead for this project. But it is simply too difficult to understand how 40 hours per week for 18 months, or 2,880 hours to complete the routine tasks that constitute this project is valid. Assuming there are about 50 properties that are currently awaiting abatement on our first sort of cycle of doing this, which has been a 5-year-long cycle now, that means we would be using about 58 hours per property abatement, according to this. Also, further, it's going to be difficult and a source of ongoing scrutiny to ensure that each hour of this assignment is spent just on this project. It would be better that a mutual agreement be established on what percentage of the revenue should be granted for administrative purposes, as is common practice in grant funding and entitlement allocations from the state and from the federal government. This is usually referred to as an indirect cost rate, which the institution or the county or any organization sets aside to cover administrative costs, and then what they use that money for and how they use it would be up to the agent. That's how I think we should approach the administrative costs of this proposal. Now, we understand that the issue of recovery of funds is challenging because, again, the resolution that the board adopted made no provision for the recovery of the funds that were spent on clearing properties. By the way, it also made no provision for administrative costs either. Also not, I must say, as a parting comment, I do not understand the concept of double dipping. I bounced it off my legal friend. He had problems with it. What it basically says is that if I'm a property owner and I have a bunch of hazardous vegetation on my property, all I have to do is refuse to clear it, and then the county will clear it for free. No. And that just doesn't make any sense, whatsoever. There are lots of county services that are double dipped. The county supports the Lake County Transfer Station in Lakeport. We pay for that out of our property taxes to pay for that service. But when I pull up my pickup truck full of stuff, they charge me another fee. Is that double dipping? There are just lots of services where there are additional fees that come after the service has been paid for. All in all, we can work together to make this critical project a success and end trying to demonstrate another community and county project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to respond to some of those comments and statements?
Yeah, just a couple of clarifications. We did receive from Mr. Hartley yesterday that outline of expenses that he'd like more detail about. I didn't have an accountant yesterday, so she's looking at it today. And I already know that the, what was the last line, Phil, that you called the
Undocumented expenses.
Undocumented expenses is actually 23, 24 expenses, and we have those details for you. So we're happy to, and we've stated this all along, we're happy to, continue to drill down on the details of accounting for the expenses from the past. And we're open to do that. We're willing to do that. And we're looking for direction on how we want to move forward beyond the spot that we're at. Additionally, I appreciate Mr. Hartley's comments about an indirect cost rate and how that idea might be utilized for this project. Typically, indirect cost rates cover the cost of staff who are kind of incidental to a project. So if we were writing a grant to cover this project, we would both include indirect cost rate to cover the time of our accountant and other people who come in contact with the project, but we would still certainly fund a staff member for this project. Because it's necessary to actually complete this work. And I think that our lack of success administering this project in the past is demonstrating of that. It's the reason that we haven't been able to be successful.
And just a comment that remembering the data I've given you this morning just for mine also applies to other 4. This has been 4 years in the coming. It's taken 4 years to catch up, to this point, because we didn't have reports in the first few years. And indirect cost rate, that's really up to the institution how it uses it. Indirect cost rates run anywhere from 2 or 3 to 10%, up to Stanford University, who charges 100% indirect cost rate for any funds it receives from outside. So there's no limit on what you can do with indirect cost rate. It just makes it clear to everybody that, look, we're going to set aside some percentage that we all agree on is appropriate for the community development, group to use as they see fit to cover what they need to. Remembering that everything that's been done so far, all of the lots that have been cleared, including my one, that finally got cleared after 4 years, have been done without funds going, for administrative costs. And I don't think we should be held to sort of pay back time that was spent the last 4 years. But we're happy to talk about, or at least have the opportunity to discuss with the department an alternative approach.
And at this moment, Mr. Hartley, I'm going to ask you to please take a seat. If we have a direct question to you, I'll ask you to come back up. Thank you very much. Supervisor Pyska?
I appreciate and I want to thank staff for working on this for years. This has been a really difficult project that we all inherited. And the HOAs, Kathy, did you have a presentation to make too? Okay, then I'll just hold off on my comments. Okay.
I want to hold 1 second. Vice Chair Crandall, I saw you had your pen up. CAO Parker.
Thank you, Chair. Can I respectfully request 5 minutes?
Yes, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 11:26, and we'll start off with Kathy.
I'm going to do is
It got quiet real quick. All right, we're going to reconvene. Thank you for your patience on this. I just want to kind of check in with Supervisor Pyska and with Director Turner. At this moment, how would you like to move forward? I know we have Kathy that wanted to speak. I'd love to give her that time and then come back to us and figure out. Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My name is Kathy Andre. I serve as president of the Riviera Heights Homeowners Association, as well as the Konocti Fire Safe Council. So we've been at this benefit zone program a very long time. We believe that the benefit zone program, which was developed in 2019, was proposed with every good intent. At the time, the HOAs were faced with how to abate high fire risk properties whose owners were deceased, in extreme tax default, or whose properties were abandoned. These properties posed an extremely high fire danger to all of the HOAs and the surrounding areas. Many of these hadn't been abated of fuel loads and dead and dying trees and everything else in 15 years, 10 years, 20 years. You know, so this was a very, very serious situation at the time that the benefit zone was unfolding. It was imperative for the safety of all that these properties be abated of wildfire risk. As such, the benefit zone program was created, and a majority of the homeowners in those HOAs and surrounding areas voted to approve the benefit zone program. This was all done in good faith and out of great need. In hindsight, as we all know, the benefit zone ballot was not written clearly enough to define specific program parameters, and there was no infrastructure set up at the time to manage and implement the program. Basically, it just got plopped in code enforcement's lap. And that was the reality of it. So over the past 5 years, the county and the 4 HOAs involved have faced serious challenges and stumbling blocks in trying to make this very flawed program work. I'd like to acknowledge the leadership of both Supervisor Pyska and Maria Turner in trying to resolve these challenges. I'd like to thank Marcus Beltramo with Code Enforcement Division for his perseverance in implementing and trying to implement this program. And my thanks to Deputy Administrator Shannon Walker-Smith for all of her efforts in putting together the long-awaited financial accounting of expenses charged to date to each of the benefit zone associations. Thanks also to County Council and everyone else involved in trying to find a path forward. I believe at this time, with everyone's help, there is a path forward developing here, and I think that's where we really need to look. With that said, Riviera Heights requests that the Board of Supervisors postpone today's vote. We just haven't had a chance to look at the numbers. We haven't had a chance to look at all of the expenses and how the money was spent out of each of the HOA funds. So for Riviera Heights, we don't have yet a breakdown of all of the costs and expenses that have been spent to date on abating specific properties. Again, we finally have these numbers. And so I just want a chance to see them and review them and analyze them before the board makes a major decision that's going to impact the balance of the funding in the benefit zone accounts. So I think the question that we have is, does the operation of the benefit zone warrant a full-time person? We all agree. Riviera Heights wholeheartedly agrees that administrative money should be, benefit zone money should be spent on administrative costs. To what degree is the question? And so we are very supportive of a part-time position at this time, and would certainly approve of funds being expensed for a part-time person. If you look at the numbers, you've been averaging clearing about 20 properties, 25 properties a year over the past 4 years or so. I don't think that number of properties being cleared each year warrants a full-time position at the cost of about $88,000, which represents, if you look over the salary cost of this full-time position, it's half of the money remaining in the benefit zone funds that would go towards an administrative full-time person instead of being spent on clearing additional properties that need to be cleared. Again, we just would like the opportunity to review these expenses and these numbers. Maybe we'll come back and go, oh my gosh, this full-time position is absolutely warranted. We're shooting in the dark right now. We don't have the numbers to make a major suggestion other than conservatively say, again, we wholeheartedly support a part-time position. We are just concerned that the position of a full-time person is not warranted and the funds should not be expensed for this. We've waited 3-4 years for these monies. I think we could just wait a little bit longer until the HOAs are given a chance to review the expense breakdown. We've been waiting a long time for this expense breakdown. We sure would like the opportunity to review those numbers. And I think the council as supervisors might like to review those numbers also in making this important decision as to the administrative costs related to this program. In the meantime, I know all of the HOAs will continue working with everyone involved in the benefit zone program. We all want to have a good resolution to this, and I applaud everyone involved for stepping up and recognizing the need to go, oh gosh, what happens when the benefit zone money is spent? What do we do next? How are these properties going to be abated in the future? So I am very pleased to realize and understand that the people involved in this benefit zone program are thinking in those directions and are heading in those directions. That's, to me, the most important question that we can ask. There's 2 questions on the table for me. 1, part-time or full-time administrative person. 2, what is our future and how are we going to be able to abate these programs in the future once the benefit zone funds for this particular pilot program run out? Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, so again, I'll start my thank yous all over again. Thank you to staff. This has been a long haul. Marcus and I have been having meetings with the HOAs since, even before I was sitting up here on the dais, I started going to those meetings. And the HOAs have been diligent and assertive participants. We've been working together through this for a long, long time, and it has been a frustrating process. But everyone showing up always showed up with patience and a willingness to keep looking for the way forward. So I thank Kathy and Phil for being here, and for the others that couldn't make it today. And I also want to pull on one thread that you both brought up. In the beginning, when this was voted on, it was voted on for a reason, and my predecessor, Supervisor Brown, brought this with really good faith because there was a very high wildfire risk in all of the Rivieras. And since then, there has been just this incredible amount of work that's happened on every level, with the formation of the Fire Safe Council and all of the grants and projects that we've been really collaboratively working on together. So I really feel like this was the beginning of where we are today, which nothing looks the same there anymore. We've done a lot. I really want to thank you both for being here today and for being here every step of the way. It's been a long, long path. So the concept of double dipping, and this is like my super, super simplified way of explaining this, Phil, is that everybody prepaid for this service. Every single person that paid that $100 prepaid for the service. So when one person's lot gets abated, they've already prepaid. They only prepaid $100, but that's what they prepaid for that service. So we can't go back and charge them again. And yeah, I mean, if there was enough money, everybody could get their lots serviced, but we don't have that much money. And there was never going to be that much money. So, you know, it is that we are here today trying to figure out how to move forward. It sounds like we need to postpone this conversation anyway. So I think we'll be bringing it back. There is, you know, we've talked about the staff hours that go into this. And we've talked about the abatement costs. But there's a lot of hours that go undocumented because there's a lot of self-abatements. There's a lot of work. Marcus is nodding. He does a lot that never shows up on the spreadsheet. And I think that's the difficulty of figuring out if this is a part-time person or a full-time person. But whatever happens, whatever this board decides, how many hours that person's going to be working, it's going to be very well documented. They will not be able to work on any other project. And I do suggest that we have a review period to see if we're giving them too many hours or not enough. I know there's limited abatement funds, but when we know that people do self-abatements, we also know there's other grant opportunities out there. I mean, there's so many. The Fire Safe Council grant right now is running out, but that is $2,500 a home for people to get that service done. That, you know, if this employee connected a homeowner who was low on resources but needed to get the work done, connected them to get a grant, it wouldn't impact the fund balance for abatements. There's been a lot of money, there's been a lot of work done through NCO, helping seniors there. I used my discretionary money to buy several $1,000s worth of weed eaters and chainsaws so that seniors can have their yards worked on. So I would think that this person would need to be in close contact with the Fire Safe Council to know when these grant opportunities are coming up and have a list of them. So then when they go out to a property and say, you know, we have an abatement, we have an issue here, we're going to have to abate, do you have the resources? No? Well, maybe here's some grant opportunities that could help you. So I think that there's a lot that can go into this. But again, those hours are going to be really hard to document and quantify. So we have to start somewhere. Whether we start part-time or full-time, we have to start somewhere and then come back and review it and see if we're falling short or leaving too many hours on the table. So that's my recommendation when we look at this again, because we do need to look at this again. And the HOAs have been very patient waiting for these financials. So a little bit longer to let them review how much has been spent in every benefit zone is appropriate. I know we would like to start in January. Hopefully we can make that work. I don't know. I know there's the admin needs to assist and review also. So this is a great place to start this conversation. I'm glad we all came here today with the willingness to move forward because this has been really difficult and your input is invaluable. So I think that is all of my comments. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from other board members? Supervisor Green?
Yeah, appreciate it. Sounds like we're going to move toward we're going to push this down the road a little bit. My question is, you know, how much time the HOAs might need to review that, because as presented here today, we're hoping to get some direction so you can prepare to come back for mid-year budget. I would hate to have that review, which is necessary, complicate any efforts to bring forward a proposal for mid-year budget, whether it's half-time, full-time. I think as currently presented, you've documented need for full-time. I understand that raises concerns given there's no cost recovery mechanism in I agree, very flawed program, but well-intentioned. So I think there's I think you've documented the need and the wisdom of staffing up on a full-time basis. It's hard to do half-time positions, recruit and fill them. As far as inability to document time, I see Ms. Dillman Parsons in the back. Social services is all about time study buddy, and many of our other agencies do very aggressive time study things. So if we don't have those tools, maybe we need those tools so we can break this stuff down, not just on time spent, but break it down by the benefit zone that time's being spent on, break it down on whatever budget unit you're coming out of. So it sounds like everyone's kind of in agreement. We need to refine this process. I just don't want that refinement to complicate our ability to bring back a budget proposal timely.
Director Turner?
Thank you. The HOAs have waited very patiently as we went through hundreds of pages of documentation for the program to do our own internal sort of review to understand where we were. We do respect their request for additional time, and we will work with admin to make sure that we do not push any deadlines that are necessary for their work on the budget.
Any other comments? I do want to echo a comment that was made by Supervisor Pieska, and we just saw this not too long ago in one of our code enforcement assessment where there was a abatement that was done, where in the storyline of the process it said in 2022 and in 2023, but yet all the charges that we saw that were listed on what was going to be placed on the lien were all from 2024. And so I think that OpenGov is going to solve some of these problems. Our prior history in using Excel or using whatever other manners of keeping track of data has not been the best for us, but I know that I see hours always missing from just the assessment hearings we get. So I think that we need to be cognizant of that as we look at the total amounts and costs. I have no problem with the continuance to get a better understanding of what is possible, what's not possible, what changes to the program. But what I would like to ask, because I think that's going to be an important part no matter what, I think from the very beginning this was planned as a pilot to go, how do we do this for the whole county? And I think it's important for the pilot to show some level of success of a revolving fund of sorts. I don't see that written in here. It's only about how to expend the rest of the funds based on the zone of benefit. But I want to kind of see the plan on how it is that we're going to make this countywide so that it's not just general fund that's being used. How are we going to try our best to create a revolving fund for the purpose specifically of this? So a little bit bigger picture, but at the same time, the pilot program is where we can learn how to make that happen. And if we can make it happen there, we can probably scale it up to what needs to happen for the rest of the county. So that would be my ask, is a little bit more detail outside of the protocols of the zone of benefit, because there's still going to be some code enforcement activity as well as zone of benefit activity kind of simultaneously within. But how are we going to do that? And that would be my only ask that I would add on to what's already there. If there's nothing further, let's go ahead and open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Come on up, raise your hand in Zoom. I see no activity, so I'll bring it back, and we have no action for today. Bring it back when you're ready to bring it back to us on your own terms and time, and we'll continue the discussion.
Thank you.
Appreciate everyone's patience as we are a little bit behind our timed items here. So we're going to move on to item 6.7, 11 a.m., consideration of the proposed Lake County Hospital Improvement District. And we have Mr. Rickelman coming up. All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Ben Rickelman, Deputy County Administrative Officer. I'm here regarding the Lake County Hospital Improvement District. We originally came to the Board September 10th for the resolution of intention. With the state process to create a business-based assessment district, you have to have a public meeting, a public hearing, and then there would be a resolution of formation. This is just the public meeting. The public hearing would then be November 5th, and then the resolution of formation would be November 15th. With the previous meeting, there was a request with the management plan to have some sort of annual report. So I'm working with Sutter and Adventist on just a template. So so the board can see kind of how an annual report would be formed yearly. And then discussions with Patrick, the treasurer tax collector. There will be language in the management plan we'll also have for the public hearing that is in regard to the county's annual administrative fee for the district, and then also enforcement. He just wants a little bit of language with that, with the county collecting an annual assessment. I don't really have that much else to report out at the moment. We are planning for the district, their council to be here in person on November 5th for the public hearing. We do have Tim Stevens here with Sutter Lakeside, the CEO, and Cameron Fasano, the business development specialist. And I believe Chuck Cassis, the CEO of Adventist Clear Lake, is online, and also the council.
Would you like to share any words with the board and the public? Okay. Okay. Thank you for continuing on this process and bringing it back to us full circle. Any comments or questions from board members? So I have a strange question, just a what-if scenario. I know that in the whereas it does speak to Adventist Health and Sutter. Later on it speaks to just hospitals. If there by chance is a new hospital, just like our TID, if there's a new hotel, they fall under it and would have to have the same added tax to them, similarly to the two current hospitals that we have here.
So they could petition to join if they wanted to, but it's not a geographic area. It's a business-based assessment, which is just for these two businesses. So they wouldn't be automatically grandfathered in, but they could petition to join if they wanted to.
Okay. Well, the likelihood is very low, but it's too bad that that would be an unfair playing field in a sense, that in the way that they would not be taxed in the same way. And it does say the district shall include all hospitals, but I guess it's it doesn't have the definition of it other than in the whereas it speaks to the two specific hospitals.
We could adjust that language with the resolution of formation just to tighten that up.
Okay. And again, not likely to happen, but I just want to make sure we're being fair to all that may be here in the future. I doubt that's going to happen, but just thought I'd bring it up. Okay, that was my only question that I had regarding the details of the resolution. If there's nothing further from, yep, we're going to go to public comment. Open it up for public comment. I have comments from Betsy Kahn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I wrote an email and asked for specific information about this the proposed project. I wrote to the Board of Supervisors, I wrote to the County Council, I wrote to Mr. Rickelman. I have received no replies, which I think is very rude at the least. My main concern at this point is the generalized management plan that was attached to the original presentation. And I believe there was a commitment to complete the plan and provide details in that plan. One of the requirements is that the Board of Supervisors have a say in what the funds will be spent on. It's part of the mechanism of the resolution and the plan. And I think that the public really needs to have more understanding of how that will work.
Okay. Would you like to respond to that, or Mr. Stevens?
Sure. So there is going to be also, I think Mr. Stevens can also kind of provide a general overview of the hospital's planned use of the funds. It's, if you want to go there, that's.
Yes, as Ben said, we will be providing a management report annually from that standpoint and have a draft of that at the November 5th meeting. As far as how the funds are used, it will be continued through operations and through the capital and facilities upgraded needed that our current operations do not support in that sense.
And the portion of the board having say of what those upgrades or services are?
I would have to see a mechanism for that at the moment. I've not seen a mechanism in that sense and not seen a proposal that would support that in that sense.
Yeah,
It'd be a pretty unusual ask to have a county board designate funds that were going into private entities in that sense.
Yeah, I was kind of caught off guard by that comment because I don't see it in there. I do see that we are the collecting agent, and that's about, and we are the board, but that's it.
There was an allusion to it in the discussion, but it wasn't part of the proposal in that sense. Both Sutter and Adventist Health have boards that manage and direct their activities in that sense, and it'd be a bit of a conflict to have both ends coming in at that, and that we are both entities engaged in improving the health of the populations we serve and have a very clear mission in what we're doing in that sense.
And that was my general reason for asking for an annual report so that we can stay on top of what is being done. It is a 5-year where there's the possibility of renewing for another 10 years, just like we did with the TID. If in 5 years we're seeing that we don't like what's being done with the money, then that's why we need to be in the know. That's why I'm asking for the reporting function of it itself.
I think the public reporting, that we both could do a better job of reporting what we're doing currently. Even without this, we don't talk enough about what we're spending in the community and what we're doing in the community in that sense. And an annual report is certainly a reasonable ask and a much needed to support the mission of what we're doing in the community. And I know Chuck supports that as well from Adventist.
Thank you very much.
I think the council wants to comment too, if we can.
Please go ahead. It's Jerset and Lorenz.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Zach Victimom at Jerset and Lorenz with my managing partner, Jim Jerset. And we just wanted to reiterate Supervisor Sabatier's response that these are county funds and the county would have the option to turn them off or not collect them if the hospitals were not using them in a way that the county and the public support.
Thank you for your comment. I see no further comments from the chamber. I still see a hand up from Betsy Kahn. Is that a old hand or new hand?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a new hand.
Okay.
My question had to do with the plan, with the document that's associated with the original proposal, which was stated to be a draft that will be completed. When will that happen, and what public input will we have to that?
Sure. So we're waiting on just the draft language from the treasurer tax collector, and then we'll post the planned management plan, the draft management plan, excuse me, for the November 5th public hearing.
Okay. Thank you very much. And let's go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. Supervisor Green.
Yeah, just a quick clarification, if only because I heard it. I have received questions about possible deferred maintenance at one or both hospitals, seismic retrofitting, what have you. As I understand the resolution and the proposal, what this board approved in the reso was a business improvement district, not not any of the two other flavors, which are a property improvement district or the hybrid, which is a property and business district. So to the extent the revenues that are going to be assessed here are repurposed, my current understanding is it's all about seeking better Medi-Cal reimbursement and no current plan to dedicate those revenues to structural improvements or property improvements. Did I hear differently today? Are the cost savings, or at least the additional money that is anticipated from formation of this business improvement district, somehow going to result in improvements to the property? In which case we should have approved a property and business improvement district. So again, with the absence of a detailed management plan, I have some general understanding that they hope to make nice and get better Medi-Cal reimbursement, but I still don't have any plan that dedicates any portion of these funds to property improvements. And by design, that seems to be by design because it's pitched and approved in concept so far by the Reso as strictly a business improvement district. So can we understand, given where we're at right now, how these monies will be segregated and applied by the members of this business district?
So with the difference between the business and property, that is just the source of assessment. So it's not use, it's a lot of places in the country, it is based on property, but California also has a business option. So entities that are maybe renting can also be part of the collection assessment. There's nothing in the state law that says, you know, if you're taking it from a business or a property, it has to be spent business or property. There's just, you have to either have business locations or a geographic scope with the 94 law. Regarding how the funds will be spent, if there's going to be any facility maintenance or improvements, I'll leave that to Sutter and Adventus to comment on.
Really would like Zach to comment a little bit on this. I do want to make a couple of statements and then to the board and then to the public as well. When you look at what the options are, there's many options. I think the board report would do that. Southern Adventist provides millions and millions of dollars of uncompensated care each year. So how we put these in buckets and how you orchestrate the measure in that sense and how the money's spent, there's multiple opportunities on that to make sure that we're in compliance with that through the how the statute's written and in that sense, in that standpoint. Zachary, do you have anything to add to that?
No, we don't. That's correct. The money comes in for uncompensated care services that you're currently not being paid for, that you're covering other costs with.
And I'm not sure which statute this is being written under, so I'm not, you know, there's, Mr. Green went a little deep on me on how the statute is being written, so I'm not sure exactly how to respond. I can tell you operationally from the hospital standpoint and from the hospitals what we're doing and how we're trying to stay viable, but to the specifics of the ordinance, I'm not sure how to respond.
So I guess how the ordinance is written, you can, there's no, it doesn't specify if you have to spend it on property improvements or business improvements. It's just the method of collection and the entity. But I was just curious if you had any comment on with these funds, if any would be used for property improvement.
They could be in that sense. It really just depends on, there's so much happening at any point. It could be designated, you know, it can be designated based on how we need to designate through this process. And that there's enough negative in enough different areas in the hospital's operations that we can do that in that sense. And, you know, if we talk about seismic, both hospitals have seismic issues in that sense. There are opportunities there as well. I know there was a comment a few weeks ago about, you know, that we should cover that within operations, and that would be great if it was operations that would cover it. But, you know, we're nonprofit agencies like everyone else in the community trying to improve the health and wellness of the community with inadequate funding.
And again, I'm going to go back to the annual report. We talked about this is not supposed to increase cost to the consumers of your services. That's one thing I want to keep track of as we do the annual reports, and then what money came in through this improvement district and what has it been spent on, just to see how that's enhanced the services or enhanced the longevity of the services, because if your hospital's falling apart, it does not have longevity. So I think that we need to do a good job of the oversight. We do have a control mechanism within this to say, yes, this is great, let's continue. This is a fresh path that no one else has necessarily laid the tracks for us, and we're going to see how it works. And I'm willing to take that leap of faith, and as long as we do a good job and we have those annual reports, I think we can create that partnership and make sure that there's benefits to the community. So I don't see any problems with this. Just to go back to my comment earlier, in the first whereas, it says the proposed district will provide specific benefits to assessed businesses located in the county and licensed as general acute care hospitals, which I talked about that last time. That's the definition utilized by the California Department of Public Health. Is it possible to put parentheses hospitals right there so that if there's anything new that it would fall underneath that and everyone gets taxed the same, versus the next one which says whereas Sutter Lakeside Hospital and Adventist Health Clear Lake parentheses hospitals are non-profit, and then we use hospitals for the rest of the document.
Let me check with council. So with the formation process, there's a petition, which they did at the beginning, sending the their wish to form this district. And so I think we just have to look at the law a little bit more to see if that would grandfather in, or if a new hospital would have to jump through some hoops to join.
And just, I guess my question would be for the TID, if somebody builds a new hotel, do they not get the same TOT levels because they're new?
They do, but that's a different law, so
Okay.
I just want to check.
Okay. And if the rest of the board doesn't want to see that change, I'm ready to move forward. I just never know if it's going to be a new name in the near future, if it's going to have somebody new, and I just wanted to make sure that it was covered no matter what was the future of our hospitals here.
So we're not approving any resolution this meeting. We have to, because they want to make sure, in case you're doing like a neighborhood-based, business-based assessment district, and there's like 200 businesses, they want to build in a lot of notification. So that's why there's this public meeting. There's the public hearing on the 5th, and then there will be the resolution on the 15th, or the 19th. So we have time to look at that and edit the resolution.
Okay. Appreciate that. And we already opened it up for public comment. Oh, we do have another comment from Jerset and Lorenz.
Yeah, just to make sure we're all clear, the other hospital, if another one came in, it would be taxed and it would also be eligible for the funding. If they didn't want to be taxed or didn't want to be eligible for the funding, then the county would need to pull down the tax completely. The program would be over. So it would really be in their control if a new hospital did come in, because they would need to be taxed under federal law. We couldn't break them apart. So they would get the benefits of this program. If they didn't want the benefits of the program, then the county would probably have to take the entire program down.
Thank you for your comment. And Supervisor Green?
Just a last clarification, not going to be definitive in any way, and we're not approving anything, but my reading of this, imperfect as it is, the revenues obtained through the assessment of this business improvements district, by my reading, would not be eligible to do property improvements, because if you're going to do a property and business improvement district, there's a whole bunch of other findings that have to be made regarding the property improvements that are proposed to be made. I don't need a definitive answer on that, but again, my complaint originally is I don't have a really good understanding, much less a management plan for the other services that are going to be provided via these fundings, and to any concern the public may have or I may have about the ability to use these funds to improve properties or do retrofits. I don't think there's a there. But I will defer to those operating this in future years to plow that path. I don't share the same confidence. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, no further comment, and that closes this item.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go ahead and finish up our timed items. Our 6.8, 11:15 a.m. item, consideration of County of Lake Department of Public Works fiscal year 24-25 work plan presentation, and we have Director March with us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your patience today.
No worries. Good afternoon, Chair Sabatier and members of the board. My name is Glenn March. I'm the Public Works Director. I understand the board is interested in what I've been up to in the last 3 months since I've joined. I'm going to make this brief because I know everyone's hungry, ready for lunch. Real quickly, I'm going to go through the slide presentation. Next slide. So the Public Works Department is comprised of numerous divisions. And to get the work done, we have 63 positions and 15% vacancies. We're running 25% vacancies. We had a successful recruitment in the Roads Department. We should be hiring 4 people, so we'll reduce that, 7 vacancies, we hope. The Engineering and Inspection Division is the most concerning. We've lost 2 people this year. You can see that the board approved changes in the positions, which is great. So we're looking for project managers as opposed to engineers, so to get projects done. Accomplishments this year, we reclassified 5 positions. We are going to add a fiscal coordinator dedicated to the Engineering Inspection Division. We also modified the master fee schedule that will allow us to collect actual costs for our work on PG&E and MediaCom projects. Currently, we're just doing a fee for the length of trenching, which we're not recovering all our costs. So now we'll be able to recover all our costs. As you're aware, the civil grand jury requested that we collect more revenue to pay for more inspection of PG&E's work, and this is consistent with that request. We are also hiring another engineering technician to cover the PG&E work, and I think we'll be able to get reimbursed for most of those 2 position costs. Currently, I'm working on the 10-year capital improvement program. We're continuing to work very hard on filling vacancies. We're actually changing our associate engineer position to a part-time position and a remote position to help staff review plans and specifications on our capital improvement project. And we're improving our contracting processes. So we're working with Caltrans to make sure we meet all the requirements. And you'll see new consultant contracts after the first of the year. Future activities include filling vacancies. We're going to modify our accounting practices and improve our project management know-how. Many of our project managers have less than 3 years of experience. So just getting them more knowledgeable is a big task. We're going to implement new road maintenance strategies in the spring where our teams are more systematic approach to road maintenance. Right now, the team is focused on responding to complaints and addressing complaints, but we have a process to identify urgent complaints and address those within a day or 2. And the other road complaints are going to inform staff on which roads need to be maintained more. So they'll prioritize roads that need to be maintained more, and I'll expect the area supervisors to be very knowledgeable on the roads within their district so they can assign tasks to their lead workers and get that done. We're going to modify and add ordinances. We're going to do a pavement moratorium ordinance. We're going to update the airport ordinance in order so we can collect more fees on the airport. So currently we're collecting about $30,000 a year. We're spending about $60,000 in expenses. Hope to get our fees up to $125,000 over the next 5 years. We'll incrementally increase and see the revenue we collect, and that's important. A lot of people moving on to the capital improvement projects. So I submitted a list of active capital improvement projects that have funding. You'll see some projects are complete, but they're not closed, so we have to collect all our reimbursements to close them. Projects in construction are in construction. Projects in the planning phase are those where we have funding for, but we have not assigned a consultant to that work. And I've provided a list of the different types of projects we have going. Any questions?
Any comments or questions? Supervisor Pyska?
Well, it's not in your presentation, but we did have a plan to start the road work in Cobb this year, and it got delayed. So I just was hoping you could speak to that. I know we have some people who came for that.
So Cobb Mountain, the 2024 pavement rehabilitation project the advertisement was delayed because I was unaware that we hadn't done our environmental clearance on the project at the time we intended to bid the project. So I expect the project to be bid in next month, and I expect it to be awarded in January, so we can begin construction in April.
Okay. Supervisor Green?
I appreciate the presentation. We had a side conversation. There are 1 or 2 projects on here that aren't on your list, and I know you're dealing with a lot in the department and a lot of mop-up. So presentation a day aside, how are you able at this point to start figuring out those problem areas that aren't even on the list yet and get them funded? So what's your mop-up strategy? Because I have a couple projects that aren't on the list, and I think they're important. Yeah.
So we have windows when we can apply for grants, and so this year we're going to get back to basics, our contracting, our accounting, and assess each of our projects. In the future, we're going to apply for the various grants when windows open. You had mentioned Highland Spring Road. The Highway Bridge Program grants the new grants are going to be open in the spring, so we'll apply for a grant for that project, and we'll be looking for funds for projects as we identify them. And a lot of the projects, we're very grateful to Caltrans because they really help us with our existing projects and help us identify funding for new projects. As part of the capital improvement plan, which we intend to complete next spring, we need to identify future projects and look for future funding opportunities. So that is the process to identify future projects and future funding opportunities.
I want to thank you for your presentation today. I know you and I spent a little bit of time discussing potential airport projects that you have in mind. I'm hopeful to see a little bit more to elaborate on that in the future in a further presentation, because I think that's something that we've been talking about for a while, and I was excited to have those conversations with you and just to see what's possible out there. I know you mentioned most likely we could be doing an award in January for the Cobb area. I'm hopeful, and we'll keep talking about this, that we can get an overall look at what does the calendar year of 2025 look like for projects that we've had on our list. Maybe that list looks a little different, but it'd be nice to know what our plan is for that following year, and hopefully by January you'll have an idea of what can and can't be done based on the funding that we have available. So hopeful that we can do that at that point in time. Any other questions? All right, let's open it up for public comment. Uh-oh.
Sorry.
We've lost,
Here
hold on one second. We've lost video. I'm going to ask you to
Sorry,
pause.
hearing impaired, I'm reading lips.
If you could please pause, we lost the video. My video works. Can I turn my camera around to allow us to finish?
It's on up there.
Is that something I can do, is use my laptop so we can at least finish this public comment and conclude this item? I'm asking County Council.
Briefly, he answered questions that I was just going to make a public comment to Jessica, but Glenn had already answered questions that I had for him, so this was just going to be a broader, it can't happen soon enough.
I know.
It's just as simple as that.
Thank you, sir. I'm just going to turn on my video so that we can at least finish this. I hope that everyone can still hear us using my laptop video. Sorry, it's such a close-up look of my mug. But we are going to close public comment if there's no further public comment for this item. Seeing no hands in the Zoom room and no movement in the chamber, I will go ahead and close this item, and thank you for the presentation, and more to come. Turned it off. And we will reconvene our meeting at 1:23, or let's just say 1:30 p.m.
Yes, I saw that. And I called him yesterday. I go, hey, Bruno, you got that thing? Yes. Perfect.
I figured it was okay.
I was calling about the.
Just a reminder that we have Gregory at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
That is animal control?
Yeah.
Yes.